Chapter 98. In the evening, it began to rain heavily in Jiang City. It only turned into a fine drizzle at night. Even though it was summer, Jiangnan's drizzle was still very misty. The whole city was like a magnificent city ink painting. On the sail of someone else's boat on the lake, Cheng Hanlin and Deputy Mayor Yi sat opposite each other. At this time, Cheng Hanlin had restored his former calmness. For him, as long as the person opposite him could sit opposite him, everything would turn around. Yi Zhengqiu was in his 40s, not even 50 yet. He was at the prime of his life. He had just been promoted, so he was proud of his success. I thought that Brother Hanlin would be very unhappy and worried. It seems that you are in a good mood. You even invited me to eat fish. Cheng Hanlin said, with such a refined person like Deputy Mayor Yi accompanying me. No matter how bad my mood is, it will be better. Ha ha ha. Yi Zhengqiu laughed and pointed at Cheng Hanlin. Brother Hanlin, you are really eloquent. If it was in the past, he wouldn't even be qualified to sit opposite Cheng Hanlin, a famous tycoon. But now he wanted to curry favor with him. He was really complacent. Brother Hanlin, aren't you worried about the Cheng clan? Cheng Hanlin said, worrying is one thing, being in a bad mood is another. Yi Zhengqiu said, the current situation is not good for the Cheng clan. Cheng Hanlin said, the Cheng clan is a very professional group. It is a very healthy group. When I do things, I rely on my foresight and ability. I have never stepped over the line. How can I cut corners? Also, it is such a coincidence that the Cheng clan's projects are being investigated at the same time. Obviously, someone wants to embarrass the Cheng clan. Yi Zhengqiu said, of course I believe that the Cheng clan is a good company, but it is useless to just believe it. If someone reports it, the government will take action. Cheng Hanlin cursed in his heart. When did the government become so efficient? He lowered his voice and asked, I am very curious. Who wants to make Cheng Hanlin unlucky and even use such methods? Yi Zhengqiu said, the business world is like a battlefield. This is inevitable. Sometimes, for the sake of benefits, you don't even realize that you've accidentally harmed others. He avoided Cheng Hanlin's question, which caused Cheng Hanlin to frown. Yi Zhengqiu happened to be in charge of this, so he definitely knew, but didn't want to talk about it. It seemed like that person's influence was indeed very great. Yi Zhengqiu's phone rang. Son, what's wrong? Dad knows. After listening to his son's nagging for a while, he hung up the phone and said with a smile, my son has been calling me nonstop since I was in the office this afternoon. However, Su is really a good girl. She is talented and beautiful. Brother Hanlin, I would like to propose marriage to you on behalf of my son. How about letting your Su marry my son? Cheng Hanlin was stunned. Was this the purpose of Yi Zhengqiu's appointment today? Now he was in a dilemma. Speaking of which, Yi Wenchen was also very outstanding. His character and talent were indescribable. In addition, he had Yi Zhengqiu as his father. He was really a good match for Su. However, Cheng Lingsu was engaged to someone else. Seeing Cheng Hanlin hesitate, Yi Zhengqiu smiled. Brother Hanlin, the trouble your Cheng clan encountered this time is far more complicated than you think. There are more than one or two people who want the Cheng clan to be unlucky. No matter how calm Cheng Hanlin was, he was still a little shocked. He thought for a long time, but still couldn't figure out who had such great power in Jiangcheng. It turned out that there were more than one or two people. It's not an exaggeration to say that if the Cheng clan didn't do things properly, they would have died a long time ago. Yi Zhengqiu continued. Even if I'm willing to help you block those people, the Cheng clan will have to give up a part of their projects. Otherwise, he shook his head. The price he had to pay for his help was to let Cheng Lingsu marry Yi Wenchen. Cheng Hanlin hesitated again and again. The marriage agreement between Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingsu gave him the capital to do business in the sea. In addition, Jiang Yi took care of him, and the subsequent changes made him insist on this marriage agreement. No matter how much his wife tried to persuade him, it was useless. However, now, the Cheng clan was in a life-and-death situation. If Yi Zhengqiu didn't help him, then the Cheng clan would really be finished. If there was no glory and wealth, who would respect you if you kept your reputation? He gritted his teeth and said, I also like a young talent like Yi Wenchen very much. If Deputy Mayor Yi doesn't mind, then this matter is settled. Yi Jingqiu laughed loudly. In this day and age, the best combination was the combination of officials and businessmen. He had power, and the Cheng clan had money. It was mutually beneficial. It was not impossible for him to be the Jiangqing city mayor next year. I'll do it. Cheng Hanlin was worried. He didn't know how to explain this matter to Jiang Yi. Deputy Mayor Yi, who exactly is going against the Cheng clan? Since they were already in-laws, Yi Jingqiu told him everything. Tang Jinshan, Zhong Liang Wen Zuolin Wu Degue. Every time he said a name, Chen Hanlin's heart skipped a beat. In the end he was stunned. This was equivalent to more than half of Jiangqing City's upper-class circle. Moreover, these people were not to be trifled with. I didn't offend them, Yi Jingqiu said. Only mediocre people won't be jealous of them. The Cheng clan has developed too well in the past 2 years. How can those uncouth people compare to them in terms of market positioning and sales concept? This is all they can do. The Cheng clan is very healthy. I won't let them do anything rash. With Yi Zhengqiu's words, he was finally able to set his heart at ease. The rest of the banquet was much more cheerful and relaxed. After the banquet, Yi Zhengqiu returned to the car and called his son to tell him the news he had been waiting for. Of course, he was also very happy. The marriage with the Cheng clan was also something he had been looking forward to. Your Uncle Cheng agreed. Yi Wenchen was stunned. He felt as if he had been hit in the head by happiness. Really? Uncle Cheng really agreed? Silly son, you're still calling him Uncle Cheng. You'll have to call him father-in-law in the future. That's great, that's great. Yi Wenchen really wanted to roar to the sky. His wish for many years had finally come true. Any guy who had pursued a girl before would understand this feeling. It felt as if he had the whole world. After he hung up the phone, he couldn't wait to call Cheng Lingsu. Su, my dad agreed. Also, your dad agreed to our matter. Cheng Lingsu was with her sister and mother. The whole family was in a state of worry. Li Junfei had left because the Cheng family had encountered some trouble. That's great. Yes, our matter. What matter do we have? Yi Wenchen said, our marriage. In fact, he was still a little nervous. Although everyone thought that he and Cheng Lingsu were a couple and both of them had feelings for each other, after all, they hadn't made it clear. Uncle Cheng agreed to marry you to me. Ah! Cheng Lingsu screamed. She almost dropped the phone. She realized that this might be the condition for Deputy Mayor Yi to help the Cheng family. And her father had agreed. The sound of the door opening came from outside. Cheng Hanlin came back. He was a little tipsy, but his mood was better. He fell on the sofa. He was really scared today. Well, the matter is solved. Deputy City Mayor Yi said that everything will be back to normal tomorrow. Dad, did you promise Uncle Yi to let me marry Yi Wenchen? Cheng Lingsu's face was pale. Cheng Hanlin sat up and said, yes. Cheng Lingsu said, but I have an engagement with Jiang Xiao. Are we going to break the engagement? Cheng Hanlin said helplessly. There's no other way. If we don't agree, our Cheng clan will be finished. Our family will go bankrupt. It will be very miserable. Cheng Lingsu said with a pale face. If you break the engagement, it will be worse than bankruptcy. Dad, we can't break the engagement. Cheng Hanlin thought to himself. Does my daughter really like that brat Jiang Xiao? Good news, very good news. Sun Xiaohong was excited. She couldn't help but clap her hands. She didn't know how long she had been waiting for this day. She said, Su, what nonsense are you talking about? Your dad finally agreed. We should celebrate. We finally get rid of the Jiang family. We feel so relaxed. Cheng Lingsu's face became more and more ugly. Her delicate body trembled slightly. No, absolutely not. Dad, listen to me. We can't break the engagement. Otherwise, the consequences will be very serious. We can't afford to offend the Jiang family. Jiang Xiao is even more so. Chapter 99. Sun Xiaohong sneered and said, Su, what's wrong with you? What nonsense are you spouting? That Jiang family? That family that owns that fruit stall? Do you think our Cheng family can't afford to offend them? What kind of joke is this? Cheng Lingsu said. Mom, Jiang Xiu isn't as simple as you think. You don't understand Jiang Xiu at all. No one understands him. He is. The words were at the tip of her tongue, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. If she said that Jiang Xiu was Mr. Jiang, of course, her family wouldn't dare to rashly ask her to break off the engagement with Jiang Xiu. However, that would also be tantamount to sentencing herself to death. She was afraid that she would never be able to get rid of Jiang Xiu, this big devil. She turned around and said, "You guys wait, I'll make a call first." The family looked at Cheng Lingsu in confusion as she ran upstairs in her slippers. She took out her phone and called Jiang Xiu. She wanted to sound out Jiang Xiu first. Jiang Xiu's extremely cold voice came from the other end of the phone. "What are you looking for this sovereign for?" Cheng Lingsu said, "My family's matter has been resolved." This caused Jiang Xiu to be slightly surprised. "Oh, is that so?" Cheng Lingsu said, "Yi Wenchen's father, Deputy Mayor Yi, will be able to work as usual tomorrow. However, he put forward a condition." At this point, Cheng Lingsu's little heart started to beat faster. She was very afraid. She was afraid that she would anger Jiang Xiu. However, she also had a bit of inexplicable anticipation. She was anticipating his anger. "Deputy Mayor Yi wants me to marry Yi Wenchen," Jiang Xiu said. "This sovereign has no objections. Isn't the agreement to break off our engagement already in your hands? Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, this sovereign is hanging up." Cheng Lingsu didn't wake up until the dial tone sounded from the other end of the phone. Jiang Xiu let him go just like that. Wasn't this big devil scheming to get her? How could he let her go so easily? Jiang Xiu's reaction was completely beyond her expectations. "I'm free?" Cheng Lingsu felt that a pie had fallen from the sky. She actually got rid of him so easily. "Haha, I'm free." She laughed, she didn't know why. There was a sense of inexplicable disappointment. When they went downstairs, Sun Xiaohong said, "Susu, what are you doing?" No, Sun Xiaohong said. "If that's the case, then it's settled. After the Cheng Corporation returns to normal, you will break off your engagement with Jiang Xiu and then get engaged to Yi Wenchen." Cheng Hanlin patted his thigh and stood up. "Then it's settled." After saying that, he turned around and went back to his bedroom. Sun Xiaohong happily followed him. "Big sister, in your impression, what kind of person is Jiang Xiu?" Cheng Lingran said. "What, you can't bear to part with him?" Cheng Lingsu couldn't help but roll her eyes. Who would be reluctant to part with that big devil? He was barbaric, overbearing, arrogant, and would do anything to achieve his goals. Cheng Lingran touched her sister's hair. "Big sister only remembers how he was when he was young. He was quite naughty. But at that time, when we were bullied, he would stand up and help us fight. I remember that one time. Your toy was snatched away by a child. He chased the child down 3 streets and helped you get it back." Cheng Lingsu said, "There is such a thing as a good thing. But now he has changed. He has become like a devil. Fortunately, I don't have to face him anymore." Devil? A scene flashed in Cheng Lingren's mind. That year, Jiang Xiu's family had just had an accident. Not only the Jiang family, but also her family. Both parents were in a terrible state. His father even wanted to escape to Hong Kong. Of course, he couldn't take care of them. Standing in front of the snack shop, she wanted to eat the colorful packaging of the lollipops, but she didn't have any money in her pocket. She could only look at them. Later, she heard the owner of the snack shop shout to catch a thief. She saw Jiang Xiu running out with the lollipops and pulling her along to escape. Maybe he is not a good person, but he will definitely be good to the people around him. The next day, the Cheng family Shuangzhu accompanied Cheng Hanlin and his wife to the Cheng clan building. After such a big thing happened, the board of directors would definitely hold a meeting. One could imagine the turmoil in the board of directors. Chairman Cheng. Seeing Cheng Hanlin and his family enter the meeting room, the directors present stood up anxiously. An old man on the left side of the board of directors table said, "Hanlin, how could such a thing happen? Have you thought of a countermeasure?" "Yes, how could so many projects be stopped all of a sudden?" Many directors rushed back from all over the country when they heard the news. "Everyone, please calm down." Cheng Hanlin came to his seat and sat down. he said with a relaxed face. Everyone should have heard about this. The 5 buildings under construction of the Chung clan and 1 completed building have been stopped. The situation is very serious. But don't worry, everyone. The problem has been solved. At 10 o'clock this morning, he looked at his watch and said, the city government will inform us that everything is fully restored in 5 minutes. The directors present were skeptical. Hanlon, how could it be so serious this time? Chung Hanlon still didn't know the reason. He said, the Chung clan is a big tree that attracts the wind. This is my mistake. The development of the group can't be so radical in the future. Opening 6 projects in one breath made the Chung clan develop very quickly. It could be said that it was rising in a straight line. The market value kept increasing. At the same time, the risk was too high. When faced with such a sniper, there was simply no way to fight back. If it were only 1 or 2 projects, it would be within the scope of the Chung clan's tolerance. When faced with a similar situation, he could slowly deal with it. If there were no problems with the project, the relevant departments wouldn't be stuck there forever. Turn on the TV. Yesterday, this matter was very big, and was even on the news. Today, Yi Jingqiu would personally come out to answer the media's questions to restore the people's confidence in the Chung clan's real estate. However, when the TV was turned on, the news that they saw made everyone present stunned. The scene gathered in front of the city government. The flashing lights kept flashing. The following title made Chung Hanlon's brain explode. A deputy mayor in charge of urban construction was parachuted in from the province. Hanlon, how could this be? Isn't this deputy mayor Yi Jingqiu? How did it become him? Chung Hanlon's head was buzzing. How could this be? He hurriedly called Yi Jingqiu. Deputy Mayor Yi. Yi Jingqiu said dejectedly, Brother Hanlon, I didn't get promoted to deputy mayor. I'm still in my original position. I'm still in charge of the district committee. I can't help you with your matter. How could this be? Yi Jingqiu said. I also want to know what's going on. Think of another way. On the TV screen, the reporters were still constantly asking the new deputy mayor about the illegal construction of the Chung clan group. He said, the Chung clan group's problem is still under investigation. However, we will definitely give everyone an explanation. Chung Hanlon's phone fell to the ground. His whole body seemed to have been drained of energy. He collapsed on the boss's chair and said in a daze, It's over, it's over. My Chung clan is over. It wasn't easy to find a savior, but Yi Jingqiu was replaced by someone else. He wasn't in the position, so of course he couldn't help him. Now, even if he wanted to sell his daughter, he couldn't. Hanlon, hurry up and think of a way. Sun Xiaohong was as anxious as a linen cloth on a hot pan. Chung Lingsu was trembling all over. Her face was full of horror. It was him, it must be him. She finally understood what Jiang Xiu meant. Yi Jingqiu was the one who helped Jiang Xiu break off the engagement with her. Devil. At this moment, Chung Lingsu felt incomparable fear. Jiang Xiu was too powerful. He could easily manipulate her and her fate. She felt that she couldn't escape from his grasp no matter what. It's too scary. This was the appointment of a deputy mayor. How could he be so powerful that he could influence the decision of such a person? Ding ding. Chung Lingsu ran out. She took out her phone and called Jiang Xiu. Why are you looking for me again? Chung Lingsu said. What do you want? Don't go too far. Jiang Xiu's eyes turned cold. Too far? Could he be as far as the Chung clan? What did she think Jiang Xiu was? She could get engaged whenever she needed him, and kick him away whenever she didn't need him? Jiang Xiu, listen to me. I'm not afraid of you. Jiang Xiu said. Afraid of me? I don't need you. You should think about it. After the Chung clan group goes bankrupt, how are you going to live in the future? You. Chung Lingsu realized that this wasn't just a problem of whether she could get rid of Jiang Xiu. If the problem wasn't solved, the Chung clan group would face bankruptcy. At that time, the rich families in Jiang City would become paupers with nothing. Chapter 100. Chung Lingsu's face turned pale as she said, Jiang Xiu, what exactly do you want? I'll listen to you. I'll agree to whatever you say. Just let the Chung clan off. Let the Chung clan off? Jiang Xiu said. The Chung clan was originally obtained by my father at the cost of his career. Ungrateful things, you actually want to kick my Jiang family out of the picture. The best way to deal with people like you is to make you lose everything. Even through the phone, Chung Lingsu could feel Jiang Xiu's bone-piercing hatred. Not killing you is a great favor from this lord. You still want to bargain with this lord? Chung Lingsu said. Jiang Xiu, just take it that my Chung clan has wronged you. If you let the Chung clan off, I will fulfill my engagement with you. I will never come into contact with other men in the future. Ha ha ha. Jiang Xiu laughed loudly. Now you know how to beg for mercy from this lord. At this moment, Jiang Xiu was reminded of Chung Lingran. Back then, Chung Lingran was full of apologies and was very gentle to Jiang Xiu. She begged him to forgive the Chung clan. However, she didn't know what Jiang Xiu wanted. Ignorant, stupid. Beep beep beep. In the board meeting room, all the directors were blaming Chung Hanlin. They pushed all the blame onto Chung Hanlin. Everyone, please calm down. Please give me some time. I will definitely solve this problem. What else can we do now? Chung Hanlin said. Right now, we can only sell 1 or 2 projects at a low price to recover the funds. As long as we can delay the investigation period, then our Chung clan will be able to come back to life. This was a brave man cutting his wrist, abandoning the rook to save the king. Although this would cause the Chung clan's assets to shrink greatly, and the interests of the shareholders would be greatly damaged, it was still better than wasting time. Unless there was a large amount of funds, what awaited the Chung clan was bankruptcy. Then let's call the buyer now. Chung Lingsu said in a daze. It's useless. She knew the power of Jiang Xiu. Even the Wang family had to bow down to him. He could even influence the choice of the deputy mayor of Jiang City. How could the Chung clan escape from his control? He didn't kill the Chung clan because he wanted to see the Chung clan's final struggle. That big devil, that big pervert. Chung Hanlin called everywhere to find buyers for a project worth 400 to 500 million yuan. In the end, no one wanted him even when he offered a 50% discount. In the end, no one wanted him even when he reduced it to 10%. President Chung, it's not that we don't want it, but we don't dare to. Everyone knows that there's something wrong with your project. People in the business world were all shrewd. Chung Hanlin had clearly offended someone. Yi Jingqiu, who was the deputy mayor, was replaced on the same day because of him. One could imagine how powerful the big shot behind him was. Who would dare to offend such a big shot? President Wu. The board of directors became silent. The originally noisy directors also stopped arguing. The situation was clear at a glance. The Chung clan was really finished. They didn't even have the last chance. Hanlin. Sun Xiaohong was devastated. She couldn't help but think of Lin Yueling. She used to be such a powerful and beautiful woman, but because of the misfortune of her family, she was reduced to selling fruits on the street. Sun Xiaohong seemed to see her own future. Will our family really go bankrupt? How can this be? We have so many assets. How can we go bankrupt? She thought that she wouldn't be poor for the rest of her life. Chung Lingran accompanied Sun Xiaohong and kept stroking the back of her mother's hand. She wanted to reassure her mother, but it was useless to say anything at this time. She was also worried. Why don't you call Junfei? If his family can invest, our Chung clan can still be revived. Sun Xiaohong suddenly remembered that Li Junfei, who came to the house yesterday, was a young master with a net worth of tens of billions. This, Chung Lingran and Li Junfei had just met not long ago. Okay, I'll try. At the moment of the family's survival, Chung Lingran braced herself and walked out of the meeting room to call Li Junfei. It's useless. Chung Lingsu shook her head in a daze. Her family's current situation couldn't be solved with a little money. In other words, money could only buy time for the Chung clan. As long as the government's audit wasn't over, the Chung clan wouldn't be able to recover. Jiang Xiu, that devil, would definitely let the audit continue until the Chung clan went bankrupt. What? You want our family to invest in the Chung clan? Li Junfei smiled and said, Lingran, it's not that I don't want to help, but your family's situation can't be solved with money. It's useless no matter how much money we throw. Unless the Chung clan's debts are cleared, It's not in the economic interest. How about this? If the Chung clan applies for bankruptcy, my family can fork out money to let the Chung clan start afresh. Chung Lingran said, It's okay. Sorry to trouble you. She returned to the meeting room and shook her head at her expectant mother. It's useless. It's useless no matter what we do. Things were developing in an irreversible direction. Chung Hanlin thought of all sorts of ideas, but it was useless. Knowing the Chung clan's predicament, all the major banks rushed to collect debts from the Chung clan. 10 days later, the Chung clan declared bankruptcy. The Rising Star Company collapsed overnight. On the day the Chung clan declared bankruptcy, the banks started auctioning off the 6 projects of the Chung clan group. The new head of the Wang family, Wang Xuetang, came to Jiangqing to participate in the bidding. Although it was called a bidding, everyone knew that these projects belonged to Mr. Jiang. No one fought for them. They basically fell into the hands of the Wang family at a cheap price. Chung Hanlin was still sitting on the long bench in his chairman's office. Everything in the huge office was the same as before. It was just that it no longer belonged to him. With a bang, the double doors were pushed open. Wang Xuetang walked in, surrounded by a group of people. When Chung Hanlin saw Wang Xuetang, his eyes widened. It's you. He was almost roaring. These days, he had been wondering who was targeting the Chung family. At first, he thought it was Tang Jinshan and the others. However, Yi Jingqiu was dismissed. This was not something that Tang Jinshan could control. Now, all the mysteries were solved. It turned out that it was the Wang family. It was the Wang family that had discussed cooperation with him. Wang Xuetang said, It's been a long time, Brother Hanlin. However, you misunderstood. I didn't do anything to the Chung family. It was my boss. You have a boss. Wang Xuetang didn't want to take the blame. In fact, he didn't know about the grudge between Jiang Xiu and the Chung family. He nodded and said, Yes, my boss. The business world is like a battlefield. Brother Hanlin, the winner takes all. You can't blame anyone. If you weren't so aggressive, my boss wouldn't have been able to find your weakness. Now that the real estate market was exploding, the huge profits made these businessmen lose their minds. Qin Weiping of Wanji was like this, and so was Chung Hanlin. They had invested almost all their assets. Once there was a problem, they would collapse. This way, Wang Xuetang pointed at the door. Chung Hanlin's face was pale. He was reluctant to leave. His right hand gripped the chair so tightly that the handle squeaked. However, there was nothing he could do. He stood up sadly and walked out as if he had lost his soul. Dad, where are you? His eldest daughter called. I can't go home. Mom, Susu, and I are in the old house now. Chung Hanlin recalled the old house that he had forgotten. It was the place where he and son Xiaohong got married. It was a small shabby house. At that time, they were very satisfied. However, when he thought of the crowded space, the damp and moldy walls, and the inconvenience of going to the toilet, he felt very conflicted. Chung Lingsu stood outside the door. She was on the verge of breaking down as she walked in. Was this really a place for humans to live? Sun Xiaohong was still wearing a gorgeous dress and stood there motionless. In the whole family, only Chung Lingran was moving the big and small boxes inside. Suddenly, a hand reached out. Chung Lingran looked up and a glimmer of light flashed in her beautiful eyes. Minor repairs. Let me help you. Chung Lingsu was shocked to see Jiang Xiu here. He looked the same as before, dressed simply. His outfit matched the shabby street tiles very well. She moved her lips, wanting to ask him how he still had the guts to come to the Chung family. You murderer, you big devil. She wanted to ask him how he still had the guts to come to her house. However, she swallowed her words in the next second. There was only fear left in her heart. Under Jiang Xiu's simple appearance, he had the power to make Jiangqing, no half of Jiangnan, tremble. If he wanted to make the Chung family even more unlucky, it was just a matter of a thought. Don't be busy. Let me do it. Be careful not to dirty your clothes. It's okay. You can rest. Chapter 101. Looking at Jiang Xiu busily moving the family's luggage inside, Chung Lingran sighed and said, Minor repairs, and it's the minor repairs from before. He's really a good young man. Chung Lingsu was dumbfounded when she heard this. My good sister, do you know what you're saying? He's a great devil, and our family's bankruptcy was caused by him. You're actually praising him here. In the future, don't throw a big missy tantrum. Get along well with minor repairs. Looking at her sister's earnest words, Chung Lingsu looked at her as if she was looking at a lunatic. Chung Lingran thought that fortunately, Dad didn't rush to let her sister break off the engagement with minor repairs. Otherwise, they would lose trust and go bankrupt. It would really be a loss of both money and woman. Chung Lingsu really wanted to expose Jiang Xiu's true colors in front of her sister, but Jiang Xiu's warning made her firmly swallow her words. She helplessly replied, "Oh, minor repairs, drink water." It was a hot summer day. Chung Lingran went to the small store to buy a bottle of iced mineral water and handed it over to Jiang Xiu. The young girl in front of him was only 20 years old. She was far from being as mature and charming as she was in the future, but she had a youthful aura. Her black and shiny eyes were clear and didn't contain a trace of distracting thoughts. Jiang Xiu didn't know what kind of changes would happen to her life in the future if he destroyed the Chung family. He took out a necklace and handed it over. The necklace was a round bead, a very small one. It flickered with a faint golden light inside. This was the river swallowing toad's inner core. These days, he had already absorbed a little bit of it. He used a secret method to add a glyph array inside. Once Chung Lingran was in danger, the glyph array would be activated. For you. Give it to me. From Chung Lingsu's point of view, Jiang Xiu was like a little brother to her. However, she was still surprised that Jiang Xiu would suddenly give her a gift. She reached out and took the necklace. It was cold to the touch and actually felt very comfortable. What is this? Jiang Xiu said. A protective talisman. Chung Lingran's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. She certainly didn't want expensive things, but if it was an amulet, she naturally wouldn't refuse minor repairs. After putting it on, a burst of spiritual power burst out from the bead, and all the negative energy in the whole room was completely dispelled. It was like a gust of wind sweeping through, and the surroundings suddenly cooled down. How magical, Jiang Xiu said. It's very effective. Each person has one pearl, which coincides with their birth characters. Also, you can't take it off. If you take it off, it won't work anymore. In the future, you have to wear it no matter if you take a bath or sleep. Ah, Chung Lingran widened her beautiful eyes and said, "It's so cold." It's okay to wear it in summer, but if I have to wear it in winter, wouldn't I freeze into a human stick? Jiang Xiu had never seen Chung Lingran like this before. She was innocent and was completely different from the Chung Lingran in his memory. In his previous life, Chung Lingran was a woman shrouded in pain. There was no smile on her face. Even if she did smile, it was a fake smile. She lived in Jiang Xiu's torture every day, but she still didn't want to leave him. Warm in winter and cold in summer. Chung Lingran said, "It's like jade." She touched it again before putting it down and saying, "Have you filled in your school application? You're the top scorer in the college entrance exam, so you can choose any school you want." Jiang Xiu said, "I haven't thought about it yet." Chung Lingran thought for a moment and said, Su plans to choose Imperial University. Why don't you choose Imperial University too? You two can take care of each other. Imperial University and Hua Nation were the two best schools. They were of similar quality, so it didn't matter which one he chose. "I'll think about it." A cry came from outside the door. "Hanlin." It was Chung Hanlin. He looked at the dilapidated house with a dazed expression, and let Sun Xiaohong throw herself on him and cry. "Do you plan on letting the three of us live here for the rest of our lives?" Jiang Xiu sneered in his heart. "Don't tell me you want to live in a luxurious villa? I'm sparing your life because you gave birth to a good daughter, who helped you pay off your debts in your previous life. In Buddhism, there was a saying that the good deeds accumulated in the previous life would be blessed in the future. If it weren't for Chung Lingran's sacrifice for Jiang Xiu in his previous life, Jiang Xiu would have destroyed the Chung family completely without any scruples. Don't you have enough money to rent a decent house? We do have some money, but that's for our two daughters' school fees." Sun Xiaohong clutched her expensive handbag tightly, afraid that the money inside would fly away. Fortunately, she left some cash at home and hid it. If she had put it in a bank card or bought shares, the bank would definitely freeze it. Borrow some from a friend. I'll return it when I earn money in the future. Chung Hanlin shook his head. They don't even answer my phone. The world was so cold. We can suffer, but we can't let the children suffer. Chung Hanlin loved his daughter very much in life, so he never criticized her loudly. Ran. Buy a train ticket back to the capital. Find a classmate's house or live in the school. The house was only so big. Even if Chung Lingran was willing to stay, she would still be a burden to the family. Moreover, she had already planned to return to the capital and find a short-term job. There were still 2 months before school started, so she could still earn 2 months' salary. Susu, go to the minor repairs house and squeeze in there. In Chung Hanlin's opinion, although the Jiang family wasn't rich, it shouldn't be a problem to take care of one person's food and accommodation. After all, Chung Lingsu was their future daughter-in-law. According to Lin Yueling's temper, she wouldn't mistreat her daughter. However, second Miss Chung was stunned. She looked at Jiang Xiu in astonishment, and there was a bit of fear in her eyes. If she were to live in his house, wouldn't that be like a lamb in a tiger's mouth? She hurriedly said, "Dad." Chung Hanlin said, "Then do you have any classmates who are willing to let you live in their house temporarily? If not, you can go to the minor repairs house and make do. Do you want to squeeze in here with Mom and Dad?" After the Chung family's accident, Chung Lingsu went to find her former best friends, Ouyang Qian and Li Dan. The 2 girls said that they were going out to play, but Chung Lingsu saw them on the street. "Okay, it's settled then." Chung Hanlin said, "Hurry up. If we're late, we won't be able to buy a train ticket. I'll send you." Jiang Xiu and Chung Lingsu helped Chung Lingran carry her luggage. In the past, they could buy things directly in the capital, but now they had to bring everything. The train station was still quite far away. When she saw Jiang Xiu hailing a taxi, Chung Lingran said, "Let's take the bus. Don't waste money. It's not like before." "It's my treat," Jiang Xiu said generously. Chung Lingsu muttered at the side, "Tycoon's whole family will die." "Driver, go to the airport." Chung Lingran corrected her mistake and said, "Go to the train station." "Where exactly are we going?" The driver was a little confused. "The airport. It takes 10 to 20 hours to go from Jiang City to the capital by train. Aren't you afraid that you'll be exhausted? I'll buy you a ticket. Some money can't be saved." Her younger sister beside her said, "Yes, sister. Let him treat you." She cursed again in her heart. Tycoon's whole family will die. All right. Chung Lingran wasn't greedy for comfort. There were all kinds of people on the train, and human trafficking was a common occurrence. As a young girl, it was really not safe for her to be alone. Hence she nodded. When they arrived at the airport, Jiang Xiu and the rest went to the ticket office. "To the capital. First class." "First class? Tycoon's whole family will die." Chung Lingran hurriedly waved her hand and said, No need. Economy class is fine." "Ben, I said first class, so it's first class. It's really not necessary. Minor repairs." The ticket office rolled his eyes and said, "You guys don't have to fight. There are no flights to the capital today. The nearest flight is tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. What? It was really a bolt out of the blue. They had so much luggage and spent more than 100 on a taxi. Now there were no flights. Chung Lingran said, "Then won't we have to stay here tonight?" Jiang Xiu said, "I'll call a friend and ask." The ticket office said, "It's no use calling anyone. It's not that there are no tickets, it's that there are no flights. There's only one flight to the capital every day, and it's always at 10 a.m. Jiang Xiu ignored him. He walked to the side and called Wang Xintong. "Arrange a plane for me from Jiangcheng to the capital. I don't want a helicopter. I want a commercial plane. Mr. Jiang, we've already prepared a plane for you in Jiangcheng. It's on standby. If there are no accidents, it can take off in half an hour." Look, this daughter was so much better than her father. Girls were more attentive. After hanging up, Jiang Xiu came back and said, "Okay, it should be able to take off in half an hour. We'll reach the capital in 8 hours. "Are you kidding? I already said that there are no flights. Jiang Xiu said. Is a private plane okay? The ticket office. Cheng Ling ran. Cheng Ling Su. Tycoon's whole family will die. Chapter 102. Of course, Cheng Lingran didn't believe that Jiang Xiu could get a private jet. In 2008, private jets could only be heard on TV. It was too high-end, but Jiang Xiu really brought them to the VIP area to wait. She said in surprise, "Minor repairs? What's going on?" She knew Jiang Xiu's background. He wasn't some rich kid pretending to be a loser. He was a real loser. Jiang Xiu said, "I know a friend. He's going to take a plane in the capital, so he'll give you a ride." Cheng Ling Su snorted. Liar, big liar. I'm going to the washroom. If she stayed any longer, she wouldn't be able to resist revealing the true face of the big devil. He actually lied to her sister. However, second Miss Cheng was very nervous. When her sister left, she would be left alone. She didn't know how the big devil would treat her and torture her. Minor repairs? How do you know such a powerful person? Jiang Xiu said. Haven't you heard? I accidentally saved Tang Jinshan's life. Oh. Cheng Lingran had heard of Tang Jinshan's famous name. So that's how it is. Sister, did you miss me all these years? Cheng Lingran's small hands on her thighs clenched into fists. She looked at her sister's back in panic, then glared fiercely at Jiang Xiu. How dare he say such things? What if Su heard it? She didn't expect to meet Jiang Xiu's hot eyes. Why would I miss you, you mischievous brat? I was wondering why your eyes were so sneaky. How dare you look at your sister like that? Be careful not to blind you. Jiang Xiu was stunned. Cheng Lingran's charm was really strange when she was young. She was quite different from her later years. He didn't expect her to have such a shrewish side. Why can't I look at my own sister? These words were a little shameless. Cheng Lingran's beautiful face was slightly hot, but she saw that he was waving at her, indicating that she should lean closer to his ear. Girls were naturally curious, so she cooperated and leaned closer. But she heard that fellow say, "Sis, I'm a big bad wolf." Cheng Lingran chuckled. At least you have some self-awareness. Seeing Cheng Lingran smiling like a flower, Jiang Xiu was also excited. It turned out that Cheng Lingran without the shackles of hatred could be so charming. Sis, can I ask you something? Cheng Lingran said. It's approved. Jiang Xiu said. After that, why didn't you come to see me anymore? After the Jiang family's accident, Jiang Xiu had no one to take care of him, and was sent to Dongzhou to study in primary school. Cheng Lingran was only 9 years old at that time. She took a bus from Jiang City to Dongzhou to visit him with gifts. For 5 consecutive years, she would visit him from time to time, but then she suddenly stopped. Jiang Xiu remembered that he was in the first year of primary school that year, and Cheng Lingran was in the 3rd year of primary school. Cheng Lingran's beautiful face showed a trace of panic. She said, Then isn't the 3rd year of primary school about to take the high school entrance exam? Then what about after the high school entrance exam? Cheng Lingran couldn't answer. It's been so long, I've long forgotten about it. Since then, the two hadn't seen each other until Cheng Lingran's birthday party. You weren't in love at that time, were you? At that time, Cheng Lingran was 15 years old. She was a young girl who was in love for the first time. The 13-year-old Jiang Xiu was still ignorant. Although he missed Cheng Lingran, he was more concerned about her gifts. After Cheng Lingran didn't come, he was disappointed for a while. Love at that time, my ass. This kid really dared to say anything. Cheng Lingran was so embarrassed that her face turned red. She reached out and hit him hard on the head. She said angrily, Who was in love as early as you and Su? You were engaged before she was even a year old. Jiang Xiu exclaimed and touched his forehead as if he had been hit. That's not the same. That was an arranged marriage. It wasn't puppy love. That's puppy love. Cheng Lingran saw that she was still wrongly accusing him, so she didn't visit him again. Did she have to retaliate like this? She reached out and was about to hit him again. This brat had a temper. Unexpectedly, Cheng Lingran's soft little hand was caught in his hand. You're so bold. You dare to fight back? Jiang Xiu said, I'm against oppression, exploitation and domestic violence. Let go. Do you believe that I'll call you a molester? Cheng Lingran warned him with a cold face. Jiang Xiu said, Sister, if you call me a molester, my life will be over. I'll be caught as a pervert and then beaten. I guess I won't have the face to see others in the future. I won't be able to find my confidence again. From then on, I'll live in a world of inferiority and regret. I'll numb myself with alcohol and live in a world of intoxication every day. I'll be a useless person from then on. Cheng Lingran didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're still making yourself like a resentful woman. Who's the one who's losing out? Me. Jiang Xiu was very sure. If I let go, you'll definitely hit me again. If you hit me, then so be it. Buddha said that if I don't go to hell, who will? You're so kind, beautiful, and generous. I definitely can't let you go to hell. That can only be me. For someone like me who's destined to go to hell. Can't you treat me a little better when I'm alive? Cheng Lingran was amused and giggled. Just when she was about to open her mouth, she suddenly retracted her hand as if she had seen a ghost. She saw that Cheng Lingsu had returned. Jiang Xiu also saw it. This guy thought fiercely, it's a big mistake that I didn't kill you. This is the VIP area. You can take everything for free. Cheng Lingsu took a lot of things. There were all kinds of small and big bags. Soon, she entered the role of the poor second miss of the Cheng family. Sister, do you want to? Cheng Lingran shook her head. She found that the back of her hand was sweaty. Of course, it wasn't her own. It was Jiang Xiu's. How could she sweat so much just by grabbing her hand? People who sweat are either hot or nervous. The air conditioning here is so strong. Of course it's not hot. That's because he's very nervous. Why is he nervous? Could it be that he's deliberately taking advantage of me? Thinking until here, Cheng Lingran's pretty face blushed. She secretly took a glance at Jiang Xiu. She found that his eyes were somewhat evasive, just like a thief. This made Cheng Lingran even more certain of her judgment. Her pretty face blushed even more. Cheng Lingran bit her cherry lips. She felt wronged and felt that her hand seemed to be in pain from being pinched. Sir, your plane is ready. The female ground attendant came over and said with a smile. Okay. The next group of people stood up and walked to the tarmac. When they were about to get on the plane, the two sisters were reluctant to leave. Cheng Lingran was still very worried about her parents. I'm leaving. Keep an eye on my parents. You have to take care of yourself. Cheng Lingsu wailed in her heart. Take care of yourself. I'm going to hell from today onwards. I don't know how this big devil beside me will torture me. I know. Sister, you have to take care of yourself when you go to the capital. When Cheng Lingran was about to get on the plane, Jiang Xiu handed a bank card to her. Take some money with you when you go out. I know you'll say no. Take it. If you don't need it, don't touch it. If you need it, take it yourself. The secret is your birthday. After thinking for a while, Cheng Lingran reached out and took it. Okay. Well done. Cheng Lingsu thought fiercely. This money belongs to our Cheng family. Amid the roar, the plane took off. Cheng Lingran sat by the window. The airport was very luxurious and had been specially renovated. When she first came in, she was really surprised. The price of such a plane was close to 100 million yuan. A flight would cost a few million yuan. She asked and found out that she was the only guest, and this flight was for her alone. She looked at Jiang Xiu outside the window in astonishment. He saved Tang Jinshan's life, just like the savings card Jiang Xiu gave her. Every time she swiped it, she would lose some money. Sooner or later, she would run out of money. Such a big gift would soon overdraw the card. In order to send her back to the capital, he actually chartered a plane for her. This was too generous. Her hands were still red from his pinching. She opened her bag and took out a lollipop from it and stuffed it into her mouth. Where are we going? Cheng Lingsu asked timidly. The big devil beside her was smiling to her sister just a moment ago, but the next moment, he was indifferent to her. I'm fine. We can go to Uncle and Auntie's place. Right now, she was extremely afraid of being alone with Jiang Xiu. With Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling, there was also someone to protect her. You sure want to? Do you think you're qualified to live with my parents? Cheng Lingsu didn't dare to say anything. If she went against him, she would only be asking for trouble. Didn't you want to live in a villa? I have a big villa. You can live in it as long as you want. Cheng Lingsu shouted in fright. No, I'm not going. Chapter 103. Cheng Lingsu knew that her tragic fate was about to begin. She didn't know how this great devil, who she feared and hated, would torture her. She was so restrained in front of her sister, but once her sister left, her true nature would be exposed. I'm not going. I don't want to go. She screamed in her heart, but no matter how hoarse her voice was, her feet still followed Jiang Xiu disobediently. A black Mercedes-Benz drove over. The driver got out of the car and respectfully greeted Mr. Jiang, then opened the door for Jiang Xiu. The villa in the wetlands was much more luxurious than Cheng Lingsu's original home. After entering, it was very quiet inside. There wasn't even a single servant. She couldn't help but feel nervous. The villa was so big. A man and a woman alone. If Jiang Xiu really wanted to do something to her, she was afraid that no one would hear her even if she screamed for help. Thinking about it, her face turned pale. We lack a servant here. In the future, wash clothes, sweep the floor, pour tea, buy groceries, and cook. If you do anything that displeases me, I will drown you in the wetlands at the door. Jiang Xiu's tone was calm, but Cheng Lingsu knew that there was nothing this great devil wouldn't do. Jiang Xiu, don't go too far. I'm just staying at your house temporarily. Why should I be your servant? Cheng Lingsu wanted to resist. She felt that if she blindly obeyed, her fate would really lead her to death. Why should I? Jiang Xiu smiled coldly. Because your life is in my hands. Cheng Lingsu's face was pale, but she still gathered her courage and said, Don't scare me, Jiang Xiu. Others are afraid of your cultivation, so they flatter you and call you Mr. Jiang. I'm not afraid. If you really push me too far, I will report you. I saw you kill people with my own eyes. Go, I won't stop you. Cheng Lingsu said. Don't think that I don't dare. She really went to open the door. But when she opened the door, there was a person standing outside. Seeing this person, Cheng Lingsu was stunned. The person looked to be in his 50s. His hair was slightly gray, and he looked very dignified. The person beside him was about to press the doorbell. He said, I'm Gu Diji. Is this Mr. Zhang's house? The reason why Cheng Lingsu was stunned was because she recognized He Shiren. He was the #1 figure in Jiangnan province, the true governor of Jiangnan province, the most powerful person in Jiangnan. She usually saw him on TV, but now he was standing in front of her, alive and well. He's inside. I've heard of Mr. Zhang's amazing performance at the tide viewing platform, so I took the liberty to pay you a visit. Cheng Lingsu couldn't believe her ears. My God, that was murder. The Jiangnan frontier admired him and came to invade. What's wrong with this world? Has everyone gone crazy? Ironic, too ironic. She wanted to report him. How could she do that? Second Miss Cheng was stunned. Let's talk inside. Jiang Xiu stood in the living room with a proud face. In front of the Jiangnan frontier, his eyes were still as indifferent as a bodhisattva in a temple. In Jiang Xiu's eyes, ordinary people were dust, no matter who they were. Seeing Jiang Xiu's elegant demeanor, Gu Diji was surprised. He had seen many important people, but it was the first time he saw someone as proud as Jiang Xiu. Moreover, he had heard about the battle on the tide viewing platform. He was also very afraid of this person's methods. Why are you still standing there? Go and pour some tea. Cheng Lingsu came back to her senses. After the two of them sat down, Jiang Xiu asked, Why did Gu Xiu come to my place? Gu Diji had a faint smile on his face. I came this time to see the legendary middle-aged demigod, who is no more than 20 years old. Of course, I also came with a mission. I want to invite Mr. Jiang to join some organizations. Jiang Xiu said, Don't tell me you're from the military special forces or something? Gu Diji sighed and said, To be honest, the Gu family's foundation is in the military. However, after the old man passed away, the Gu family's influence in the military weakened day by day. There aren't many wars nowadays. Other than games, the military mainly relies on the military competition. Last year, the Gu family ranked second to last among the 8 major armies. Jiang Xiu thought that it was really bad. It was almost at the bottom. That's why I want to ask you to help. Jiang Xiu shook his head. I'm not interested. Gu Deji was a bit anxious. Mr. Jiang, don't be so quick to refuse. Think about it carefully. Why don't you listen to the Gu family's offer? Many people like Mr. Jiang are only known among the common people. To put it bluntly, they're just ordinary people. It's hard for ordinary people to be elegant. If you have a military position, everything will be different. Bring honor to our ancestors and have a respected status. If Mr. Jiang agrees, I'll be a general. Like other positions, promotion depends on merit. Mr. Jiang is so young. It's not impossible for him to become a general in the future. Jiang Xiu still shook his head. That's not my goal. Gu Deji smiled helplessly. Mr. Jiang is detached from worldly affairs. Of course he doesn't care. But Mr. Jiang is still in the secular world. He has parents. In the future, he'll have to marry and have children. Can Mr. Jiang be sure that they won't care? Jiang Xiu was stunned. He thought for a moment and said, if Gu Shu can agree to a condition, I might change my mind. Hearing that there was a chance, Gu Deji was overjoyed. Sir, please tell me, Jiang Xiu said. This sovereign's biological father was also an official more than 10 years ago, but because he made some mistakes, he was sent to prison. This sovereign wants you to overturn the case for him and restore him to his former position. This matter was very troublesome. Not to mention that the case was from more than 10 years ago. Even if the case was overturned, how could he be restored to his old position? Gu Deji clenched his teeth and said, okay. Jiang Yi was already 43 years old. He wasn't young, but he was still young in terms of his career. More importantly, his father was living like a zombie. If he could restore his father's official position, he would definitely be able to come back to life. Come find me after you've done your thing. After Gu Deji left, Jiang Xiu's mood improved. Why? Cheng Lingsu's voice came to his ears. She looked very depressed. I mean, why does even Gu Shu have to be so respectful to you? I also want you to take a position in the military. Cheng Lingsu didn't understand. She couldn't figure it out. Her beautiful eyes were shining with tears. You clearly killed someone. Jiang Xiu said. What do you think? They're afraid of you. Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, you're only half right. Being afraid is one thing. More importantly, they know that it's useless to sue. It might even bring about a disaster. If you saw your companions being killed by supernatural forces such as ghosts, would you sue that ghost for murder? Cheng Lingsu shook her head. I'm a supernatural existence. I'm a god. After saying this, he turned around and walked inside. Wash my clothes. Wash them by hand like last time. If you don't want to die, then wash them clean. Cheng Lingsu thought to herself, don't try to trick me. You're a god. You're more like a demon. How can you use such lies to trick me? However, she admitted that Jiang Xiu had said that he had supernatural powers. Because of this power, Gu Shu wanted him to join the military. In fact, it was to recruit him. The intelligent second Miss Chen quickly figured out the crux of the matter. However, after figuring it out, she was also in despair. Even Gu Shu wanted to recruit him. How could she sue him? After Gu Deji left, the first thing he did was call Gu Dikang in the military. After the old man of the Gu family passed away, one of them was in the civil and the other was in the military. One was a high-ranking official, while the other was in the military. On the surface, they seemed to be very powerful. In reality, they had lost their foundation. The Gu family was not what it used to be. Mr. Jiang agreed. Gu Dikang said, Mr. Jiang, is he the one you mentioned who killed the demigod of the Wang family? Yes. Gu Dikang said. I keep feeling that this matter is strange. Second brother, although you don't practice martial arts, have you heard of a 20-year-old demigod? No, right? Not only you, even I have half a foot in the coffin. I haven't heard of it. But that's what the outside world is saying. Gu Dikang's hair was white, and his face was very dignified. Which part of the rumors in the martial arts world can be trusted? They're all false rumors. Demigod. How can there be a demigod under the age of 20 in this world? Those people are just blowing their own trumpets. When they really show their true abilities, they're all scared. But many people saw him kill the Wang family's demigod. Gu Dikang said, the military's confidential files show that the Wang family's demigod, Wang Jianji, died 60 years ago. The person you saw was not Wang Jianji at all. Stepping on the shoulders of giants to climb up. This is a common trick of the martial arts world people. What? Gu Diji was shocked. But many people saw that this person can fight fiercely on the water, and in a place like the Qian River where the current is so strong. Gu Dikang said, maybe it's Qinggong. You can't imagine what a demigod is like. So you're saying we don't want it? Don't want it. I already have some clues here. Gu Dikang said, we found the location of Bodhi Biogenetics. Chapter 104. After hanging up the phone, Gu Deji turned his head to look at the majestic villa. He shook his head with a bit of anger. Everyone says that the underworld is filled with lowly people. I didn't believe it before, but now I do. The secretary beside him asked. Gu Shu, what's wrong? Gu Deji said. So Wang Jianji died 60 years ago. These people are really something. The Wang family used a dead person to protect the Wang family's glory in Jiangnan for 60 years. Jiang Luoxia used a dead person to gain both fame and fortune. The secretary said. That's right, who can live for over 200 years? Gu Deji said. Let's go. Jiang Xiao was currently cultivating in the villa. At this time, there were as many as 27 shin veins on his arm. They formed the upper half of a character, faintly shining. He excitedly touched it. 27 shin veins was only the tip of the iceberg. This was really shocking. He remembered that the first complete shin veins of the Shadow Emperor God clan was 31. This was already considered a high-grade shin veins, and even won the title of Talisman King. From the current situation, it was only a matter of time before he surpassed 31. Then he slightly frowned. After using up the river swallowing toad's Niden, his cultivation speed suddenly slowed down. This made him feel a bit uncomfortable. I have to think of a way to get something that can increase my cultivation speed. Right now it's really too slow. He really wanted to see how many shin veins his first complete shin veins diagram would have, and what kind of strange abilities it would have. Let's see where the miracle is more obvious. Grab one or two to eat. He walked out of the house, wanting to ask Cheng Lingsu to buy some related books for him. But when he came to the living room, his face became cold. Cheng Lingsu was comfortably sitting on a chair. She even turned on the television, watching with great interest. Soft music came from the TV. After the prelude, the sound of nature echoed in the living room. On the gorgeous stage, there was a young girl in a long white dress. Her long black hair flowed like a waterfall over her beautiful shoulders. She wore a crystal crown on her forehead, and her face was beautiful. She was holding a microphone and singing passionately. Xiao Xuetong was the most popular celebrity nowadays. Every girl would chase after celebrities, and even the proud Cheng Lingsu was no exception. She was very obsessed with Xiao Xuetong. You sure aren't courteous. Hearing the cold voice, Cheng Lingsu was startled. She quickly stood up, looked timidly at Jiang Xiao's indifferent face, and said embarrassedly, I'm tired from mopping the floor, so I'll just watch TV for a while. Her hair was a bit messy, and a few strands of hair were hanging in front of her face. Her forehead was also sweating. She nervously looked at Jiang Xiao. Her beautiful face was pale, and her eyes flashed with panic. Jiang Xiao was too familiar with this expression. In his previous life, every time he got angry, Cheng Lingran would look at him with this expression full of begging. Jiang Xiao said, Go and buy books for this noble one. As long as it's about divine Tao remnants, buy all of them for me. Okay. Cheng Lingsu nodded. Just when she was about to turn around and go out, she stopped and said, I don't have money. Take it. Jiang Xiao threw a card over. Cheng Lingsu said uneasily, I'll go and buy books for you. Can you give me 3 hours off? I want to go and see Xiao Xuetong's concert. Haha. Jiang Xiao laughed involuntarily. He wondered if he was too kind to Cheng Lingsu. Just 3 hours. After I'm done, I'll go home immediately. It won't affect my work. Cheng Lingsu begged. Do you think that I'll agree? Chung Lingsu's eyes showed disappointment. She knew that Jiang Xiu wanted to take revenge on her. The more she wanted to do something, the more Jiang Xiu wouldn't let her do it. She reluctantly looked at Xiao Xuetong on the TV. She had always wanted to go and see Xiao Xuetong's concert. However, due to her heavy workload in high school, she didn't have the chance. It seems that she also wouldn't have the chance in the future. Just at this time, Chung Lingsu's phone rang. Hello, sister. On the other end of the phone, Chung Lingran said, I'm in the capital. You're with minor repairs now, right? You have to be more sensible and do more work when you're with uncle and auntie. Chung Lingsu looked at the villa that was as empty as a playground. She had never done so much work in her entire life. Oh, I know. Chung Lingran said. Remember to visit Dad and Mom tomorrow. If there's anything, you have to help them. When I'm not around, you have to do my share as well. Okay. Chung Lingsu said. Sister, is there nothing else? I'll hang up then. Hearing that her sister was in a bad mood, Chung Lingran also knew that her family had encountered such an unforeseen event. As a little girl who stretched out her hands and ate her fill, she definitely couldn't accept it. Oh right. What a pity. I heard that Xiao Xuetong went to Jiangqing to hold a concert. If I knew earlier, I would have listened to it before returning to the capital. She was just saying. In fact, she wasn't in the mood. She was just looking for a topic to cheer her sister up. Yeah, it's a pity that I didn't get to see it. Chung Lingsu was a little depressed. Give the phone to minor repairs. Chung Lingsu handed the phone over. Jiang Xiu picked up the phone. Hello, sister. You're here. Yeah, your friend is so considerate. He even sent me all the way back to school. Chung Lingran said. Su seems to be in a bad mood. Accompany her to the concert tonight. You pay first. I'll pay you back when I earn more. Chung Lingsu heard everything clearly. Her eyes flashed with hope, but she still didn't have much hope. Jiang Xiu wanted to take revenge on her, so he probably wouldn't agree. Jiang Xiu didn't expect Chung Lingran to make such a request. He said helplessly, okay. He agreed. Chung Lingsu's eyes lit up. She was really surprised. There will be a lot of people at the concert. You must take good care of Su. After saying a few more words, Chung Lingran hung up the phone. Go and buy books for me first. Buy all the books that you can buy. Then go and buy the concert tickets. Jiang Xiu promised Chung Lingran. He would definitely do it. Chung Lingsu muttered in her heart. Do you think that I'm stupid? Wouldn't I be tired to death with so many books in my hands? Of course, I'll go and buy the concert tickets first. Xiao Xuetong's concert tickets are very hard to buy. What if all of them are sold out? After Chung Lingsu went out, Jiang Xiu's gaze fell on the big star on the television. Xiao Xuetong's popularity was partly due to her singing, but more importantly, her beauty. Under the close-up camera, every detail of Xiao Xuetong's face could be seen. Even the most picky eyes wouldn't be able to find a single flaw on her beautiful face. However, Jiang Xiu kept staring at her chest. He couldn't help but admit that her height was quite astonishing. Curse of the demonic god. There was a necklace hanging in front of her chest. Her appearance was very beautiful. However, Jiang Xiu saw a ghost with a green face and fangs. His eyes flashed again. He saw a person kneeling in front of the demonic god's statue and saying something. There was a saying in the entertainment circle that people raised ghosts. However, this was the demonic god. He would only bring tragedy and destruction. It seems that this big star has attracted a villain. After the song was over, she greeted the fans with a smile. Her smile was enough to topple a city, and her smile was enough to topple a country. Her beauty made the fans scream nonstop. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Chung Lingsu hurried back. Her hands were red from carrying so many bags. She was trembling badly. The books were heavy, and there were so many of them. She was tired and sweating. However, she said, the concert starts at 7:30. Let's go there early. There might be a traffic jam on the way. Jiang Xiu, on the other hand, looked through the books he had bought. His eyes were fixed on a book called Evolution of the Gods. She was indeed a top student. Buying books was not a problem for her. He flipped through the book casually and said, call a taxi. Xiao Xuetong's concert was a big event in Jiangcheng. There was a sea of people in the stadium. She's very popular. Chung Lingsu said. Of course. Xiao Xuetong has been the most popular female singer in the country for the past 2 or 3 years. No one can compare with her. Everywhere she goes, there will be a sea of people. It's hard to get a ticket for her. Jiang Xiu said. Then how did you get it? Chung Lingsu was silent. She saw a hooligan-looking young man with concert tickets in his hand. He approached a customer and said, Do you want a ticket? 5,000, scalpers? Jiang Xiu said. How much did you spend on these 2 tickets? Chung Lingsu said timidly, 1 ticket for 4,000, 2 for 8,000. Anyway, the money was stolen by Jiang Xiu from her Chung family. It would be a waste if she didn't spend it. She felt that it was too little. It would be better to ask for 40,000 or 400,000. Chapter 105. Jiang Xiu's brows slightly wrinkled. Does she still think that she is a big missy? Outside, a concert ticket costs 300 to 400 yuan, but she, on the other hand, spent 4,000 yuan to buy a scalper ticket. Once the concert enters the venue, no matter how many scalpers there are, they will definitely buy the tickets. Could it be that she still has the tickets in her hands? Yi Hua said indifferently, You are not allowed to eat tomorrow. Chung Lingsu's brows slightly moved, but she didn't say anything. However, in her heart, she was thinking fiercely. No matter how you look at it, I still earned it. For a concert, I even spent 8,000 yuan to buy a ticket. Just that, I won't be able to eat for the entire day. Following the crowd, Yi Hua entered the stadium. Xiao Xuetong. Xiao Xuetong. Along with the appearance of the figure on the stage, the cheers reached the peak. Chung Lingsu, who was at the side, also screamed excitedly, and her small face was flushed red. Normally, she was also quite ladylike and cold, but when she saw her idol, she didn't care about her image at all. However, in the end, she didn't care about the matter of her family going bankrupt. In the future, there will be plenty of bitter days waiting for her. Trying to find joy in the midst of bitterness, right? Hello friends below the stage. Thank you all for coming to watch my concert. Where are the screams coming from? The idol's beauty was huge, and immediately, the screams came like a tsunami. Chung Lingsu also put in a lot of effort. She reckoned that after this night, her voice would become hoarse. If she were to speak to her parents with a hoarse voice tomorrow, Jiang Xiu wouldn't know how to explain it to them. If you want to watch, then just watch. What are you screaming for? Chung Lingsu replied in the midst of her busy schedule, a sea of people celebrating together, supporting Xiao Xiao together. This is too touching, too exciting. You won't be able to understand. Ignorant, stupid. In this world, there are still things that cultivation doesn't understand. Isn't it just a fandom? In his previous life, Jiang Xiu had also come into contact with a lot of fandom. However, right now, being in the midst of fandom, he had another layer of comprehension. The power of an idol is even more awesome than a god's belief. She worshipped you because she wanted you to bless her or to help her fulfill her wishes. On the other hand, fans who supported their idols never asked for anything in return. They were also so crazy. No wonder the entertainment circle was popular with raising ghosts. This was indeed a big fat piece of meat. Just as he was thinking, Jiang Xiu felt someone nudging him from behind. At first, he thought it was unintentional, but then he realized it was those guys who kept glancing at Chung Lingsu and rubbing against her body from time to time. In terms of appearance, Chung Lingsu wasn't much worse than Xiao Xuetong on the stage. She was definitely very attractive. However, in the past, she always had protectors, but now she was in trouble. Chung Lingsu tried to avoid them several times, but to no avail. Those guys were getting more and more overboard. At first, they didn't leave any traces, but later on, they directly touched her. Chung Lingsu's beautiful face turned pale, and she almost screamed. She was afraid that in such a noisy concert, there would be screams everywhere. Even if she screamed, it would be useless. Just as she was feeling extremely embarrassed, Jiang Xiu pulled her and made her stand in front of him. When those guys wanted to come over again, they were shocked by a gust of wind. Jiang Xiu directly injured their internal organs, causing them to spit out blood on the spot. They were all shocked by themselves. Why did they suddenly vomit? Thinking that they might have contracted some kind of disease, they immediately lost all their evil thoughts. They weren't even interested in watching the concert and hurriedly went to the hospital for a checkup. They ran away with their tails between their legs. Chung Ling-su was also shocked. Anyone would be shocked if they saw the people around them suddenly vomiting blood. She looked at Jiang Xiao in astonishment. If one person vomited blood, it might be because of a chronic disease, but the few people who took advantage of her all vomited blood. It was obviously abnormal. It was Jiang Xiao who made a move. Only he had such an unimaginable ability. He directly shocked the hooligans who took advantage of her until they vomited blood. How domineering was this? Why? Why did you help me? Chung Ling-su boldly looked at Jiang Xiao's eyes, waiting for his answer. Don't you hate me very much and want to take revenge on me? Her eyes were filled with a certain kind of desire. Jiang Xiao laughed coldly. You are thinking too much. In my eyes, you are just an ant. You don't have the qualifications to make me hate you. And even more so, you don't have the qualifications to make me take revenge on you. The only relationship between us is the engagement that we had when we were young. When my parents agreed to end this relationship one day, you will completely disappear from my sight. As for helping you no matter what, you are still my fiancé in name. If you let others take advantage of you, the one who will lose face is me. The desire in Chung Ling-su's eyes slowly dimmed, and in the end, it turned into a deep sense of loss. So that's what you think. After that, they continued to watch the concert. Chung Ling-su didn't shout like before and became much quieter. The young girl had a deep sense of defeat. This made her feel even more upset than when Jiang Xiao destroyed her home. In the past, she looked down on Jiang Xiao. But now, Jiang Xiao had become so high that she couldn't reach him. A person who could even make people from the Jiangnan frontier pay him a visit. A person who could trample half of Jiangnan underfoot. What kind of woman couldn't he get? Rich girls, celebrities, models. Which one of them wasn't better than her who had nothing now? Even Xiao Xuetong, who was singing and dancing on the stage as her idol, was worthy of him. In the past, the engagement with Jiang Xiao was like a shackle to her. Every day she longed to break off the engagement, but the Jiang family didn't agree. But now it was the opposite. This engagement was also a shackle to Jiang Xiao, but she didn't know if the Chung family would shamelessly refuse to break off the engagement like the Jiang family did in the past. Xiao Xuetong was singing and dancing on the stage, and the surrounding fans were shouting crazily, but Chung Ling-su's world was silent. She couldn't hear or see anything else. Jiang Xiao looked at Xiao Xuetong on the stage, and the corners of his mouth gradually raised into a smile. He was sure that his judgment was not wrong. She should have attracted a villain. The one behind her was not a little demon who could help her cultivate her evil charm power and make her more attractive to fans, but an evil god. However, this evil god was really too much. He was not suitable to walk the path of faith at all. Xiao Xuetong could let him obtain the power of faith, but it wouldn't last long. Xiao Xuetong couldn't bear it at all. She would be cursed to death by him. This time, it wouldn't be more than 3 years. I still have something to do. You can go back first. Call the driver yourself. Chung Ling-su nodded. As expected, he threw me into the crowd like I was a piece of trash. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Xiao disappeared into the crowd. At this time, the concert was coming to an end. Xiao Xuetong's fanatical fans were really too many. Whether it was the backstage entrance or the lounge, it was all crowded with people. There were bodyguards and reporters, making it difficult for people to move. In the dim corridor, Jiang Xiao saw a dark shadow sneaking out along the safety passage. He didn't know if it was because it was too dark, but he heard a cry of ouch. She rolled down 7 or 8 steps and fell to the ground in an extremely ugly posture. It was really miserable. She couldn't move for a long time. Although Jiang Xiao was indifferent, the incident happened in front of his eyes. He took a look and asked, "How are you? Are you okay? Do you want me to call an ambulance for you?" It was really bad luck to fall down at the end of the concert. It was estimated that even an ambulance couldn't come in. Unexpectedly, she shouted, Don't call an ambulance. Hey, it's a woman, and she's actually wearing men's clothes. I'm fine. She sat up, and her baseball cap fell off. Her long black hair fell down like a waterfall. She raised her head slightly, revealing half of her breathtakingly beautiful face. Her eyes were bright, and in the dim environment, she was extraordinarily charming. Perhaps because of the pain, she held back her tears and bit her lower lip, saying, "Don't call an ambulance. I'm fine." The girl's beauty shocked Jiang Xiu, and at the same time, Jiang Xiu felt that she was very familiar. "It's you." The girl nervously motioned for Jiang Xiu to be quiet. Don't be angry, don't be angry. Wasn't this a coincidence? He didn't expect to meet Xiao Xuetong here. He still wanted to find that evil god. Since the prey was here, there was no need to waste that effort. However, seeing Xiao Xuetong so embarrassed, Jiang Xiu couldn't help but want to laugh. "You're Xiao Xuetong, right?" The girl had to admit it even if she didn't want to. "It's me," Jiang Xiu said. "Do you want me to call someone for you?" "No, please don't," the girl said. "Classmate, you're here to listen to the concert, right? Are you my fan? How about this? You take me out and don't let anyone know. I'll give you an autograph CD." "I'm sorry, I'm not your fan. I'm here to accompany a friend," Jiang Xiu said. "But taking you out is not a big problem." "But your injuries aren't light. Can you even walk?" Xiao Xuetong moved and noted that it was indeed very painful. She bit her red lip and said, "Carry me." Chapter 106. Jiang Xiu laughed in his heart. This superstar was really impolite. What made Jiang Xiu even more speechless was that without waiting for him to agree, she actually wanted to climb onto Jiang Xiu's back. Who knew that as soon as her foot exerted a bit of force, she would immediately cry out in pain. Then Jiang Xiu saw that our idol's big sparkling eyes were immediately filled with hot tears. She forcefully bit her cherry lips to prevent the tears from falling out. Otherwise, our idol's image would be ruined. However, she still said with a sobbing tone, "It hurts. That fall just now was really tragic. Even a strong man would be unbearable if he fell, let alone a delicate girl." As everyone knew, girls weren't afraid of being crushed, but they were definitely afraid of falling. "Where did you get hurt?" Xiao Xuetong pursed her lips and said, "It seems to be my ankle." As she said that, she courted death and moved a few times. Her whole body trembled, and she let out a miserable cry. Her tears couldn't stop flowing down. Jiang Xiu said, Do you want me to help you take a look?" Xiao Xuetong first nodded her head, then she remembered and asked, "Do you know how to take a look?" "Ignorant, stupid. There's actually someone who dares to question this sovereign's medical skills?" Jiang Xiu said. "Then you should call someone to send you to the hospital." Xiao Xuetong really couldn't stand the pain and said, "Since you know how to take a look, then help me take a look first." Jiang Xiu said in his heart, "You actually dare to question this sovereign, you'll suffer." Thus he put on a professional expression like a doctor in a hospital and said, "Does it hurt a lot?" "Nonsense." Xiao Xuetong was in so much pain that her tears fell down. "You're still asking this kind of question. You're doing it on purpose, right?" Jiang Xiu said. "I reckon that it might be a fracture of your ankle. Even if it's cured, it will leave behind a permanent illness in the future. You'll limp when you walk. It's a pity that such a beautiful superstar has become a cripple." For a girl, the most frightening thing was not death, but the loss of her beauty. Xiao Xueqing seemed to see herself limping, and tears flowed down her cheeks uncontrollably. Jiang Xiu still said heartlessly, "There are many people in this world who are physically disabled but have strong wills. I believe that you will not be depressed because of this, and your songs will always support you." Xiao Xuetong cried even more fiercely. Jiang Xiu said, "I heard that when people cry, they get emotional. When they get emotional, their blood flow will accelerate, and the blood clot in the wound will accumulate more. The possibility of being lame will increase by 52%, 36%, 70%, 89%. Xiao Xuetong cried as she tried to stop crying. Her appearance was as pitiful as it could get. Seeing her like this, Jiang Xiu couldn't help but laugh. "I'm just teasing you. I'm already in such a miserable state, yet you're still trying to scare me." Do you even have any compassion? Are you even human? Xiao Xuetong was furious. If it was any other time, she would definitely grab his hair and tear it into pieces. Let's see if he still dared to gloat over her misfortune. Jiang Xiu said, I like to build my happiness on other people's pain. Especially beautiful girls. Xiao Xuetong said angrily, pervert. Jiang Xiu squatted down, gently held her injured foot, and said, I'm going to take off your shoes. Bear with it. Because she changed into men's shoes, it was convenient to take them off. Then Jiang Xiu gently took off her socks. Xiao Xuetong's sparkling beautiful feet were exposed from the socks. Her skin was snow-white, as if covered with a layer of luster. In the dim corridor, it was so captivating. Her toes were sparkling and translucent, like pink flower petals. Jiang Xiu held her foot in his hand. This script could be played with for a year. Xiao Xuetong felt her foot being grabbed by a big hand. A strange feeling came, and her pretty face was slightly hot. She secretly looked at Jiang Xiu and found that he was absent-minded. His eyes were blurred. This was too sneaky. She felt violated and said, Close your eyes. You're not allowed to look. Jiang Xiu nodded and closed his eyes. He grabbed her foot and began to touch it. Spiritual cultivation? Where's your moral integrity? Xiao Xuetong was touched by him like this. She sensitively shrank her foot, but immediately didn't dare to move. It hurt as soon as she moved. Holding Xiao Xuetong's foot, which seemed to be carved out of jade, the tenacious will of spiritual cultivation was being tested. Hey, do you know how to look? I'm looking. Xiao Xuetong really didn't know whether this guy was really looking at her injury for her, or taking advantage of her. She saw him touch her foot fiercely again. Although Jiang Xiu did not specialize in medical skills, his medical skills were far superior to those of the doctors on Earth. He held the small foot in his hand, and the bone and vein map of the ankle appeared in his mind. This was the skill of touching the bone. He said, It's dislocated. When Xiao Xuetong fell, her foot was indeed twisted. I'll help you fix it. Hearing that it was only a dislocation, Xiao Xuetong was relieved. She let him try first. Tomorrow, she would go to the hospital to take an X-ray to confirm whether it was fixed. Okay. Xiao Xuetong, such a big star, disappeared. Her manager, assistant, and security were all frantically looking for her. Her manager, Lai Jie, and her assistant, Peng Rou, happened to pass by this corridor. When they saw two black figures downstairs, they couldn't help but stop in their tracks. They wanted to take a closer look, because one of them seemed to be their little ancestor, Xiao Xuetong. At this moment, their little ancestor was on the ground, and there was a man on top of her. The position was quite hot and unbearable to look at. Lai Jie thought to herself, this little ancestor left so many people behind and sneaked out on her own just to have a tryst with this guy? She wouldn't be scared to death. If news of Xiao Xuetong's tryst with her lover was exposed, the public relations department wouldn't be able to handle it. Her fans would be heartbroken. She heard the man in the stairwell say, I'm starting. Xiao Xuetong. Okay. Jiang Xiu grabbed her ankle and pulled it out. The unprecedented pain made Xiao Xuetong scream involuntarily. It hurts. Lai Jie's heart was pounding when she heard this scream. Jiang Xiu's mind once again flashed with the image of Xiao Xuetong's bone network. It had already been connected, and it was very perfect. He hadn't done it in a long time, and he was a little rusty. He said, Go in. It hurts. Bear with it a little more. You'll feel better in a while. Lai Jie's heart almost couldn't take it. She looked at her watch and noted it down. July 12, 2008, 9:45 p.m. What an important day. The most important day for a woman. She had grown up. At this moment, a group of reporters came to look for her. Lai Jie thought to herself, if the reporters saw this, it would be terrible. She hurriedly brought her assistant, Peng Rou, to greet them and blocked all the reporters. Lai Jie, where's Xuetong? Why didn't she come out? Lai Jie said. She went back to the hotel to prepare for the celebration banquet. The concert this time was very successful, and the boss is very happy. Then, she led the reporters to the front. Jiang Xiu, who was in the corridor, said, Okay, in less than a month, you should be able to walk as if you were flying. Xiao Xuetong really didn't feel that much pain, and it was fine even if she moved a little. Her upbringing and restraint made her say, "Thank you. I'm afraid that you'll feel inferior after being crippled." This bastard couldn't be polite to her. "Squat down," Jiang Xiu said. "What for?" Xiao Xuetong said. "Of course you have to carry me. How can I walk like this?" As she spoke, she was about to ride on Jiang Xiu's body. Jiang Xiu said, "No one has ever dared to ride me. I've always been the one riding people." Bah, hooligan. She really couldn't spit out anything from her mouth. "Are you going to carry me or not?" Jiang Xiu said. "No." Jiang Xiu had only carried one woman in his life, and he would only carry one woman in his life, and that was Cheng Lingran. That place belonged to her, and it belonged only to her. Xiao Xuetong said, "There are a lot of policemen and security guards outside. If you don't carry me, I'll tell them that you pushed me down the stairs." After saying that, she raised her chin slightly, looking very arrogant. "No way. I can carry you." After saying that, he gave Xiao Xueqing a bridal hug. Before she could cry out in surprise, her whole body was carried up and walked down the stairs. Xiao Xuetong didn't say anything. After a few steps, Xiao Xuetong asked, "Am I very heavy?" Spiritual Cultivation said, "It's okay." "Oh, I've been on a diet recently." Spiritual Cultivation's perception of strength was so accurate that it made people's hair stand on end. Xiao Xuetong weighed 95 kilograms, and she had exercised a lot tonight. She was about 1 kilogram dehydrated, and her height was exactly 1.7 meters. If she still wanted to lose weight, others wouldn't be able to live anymore. "Did I sing okay at the concert just now?" Spiritual Cultivation said. "I didn't really listen to it. I came with a friend. She likes your song. Is your friend male or female?" Chapter 107. Jiang Xiu came out of the stadium and said, "Where are you going? Your fans will be leaving the stadium soon. If they see you, it'll be interesting." Xiao Xuetong hurriedly said, Yes. Hurry, they're leaving already. Don't get caught." Jiang Xiu looked at Xiao Xuetong's pink face. Under the street lights, it was so beautiful. She didn't try to hide it and acted natural. He pretended that he couldn't walk and said, "Big sister, I'm carrying someone. How fast do you want me to walk?" Please. It'll be bad if I'm blocked by fans." Jiang Xiu said. "Is this the attitude you should have when you're begging?" "I'm begging you." A pair of teary eyes stared at Jiang Xiu's face. She looked very pitiful. "Why did you run out?" Xiao Xuetong said. "You don't understand. You must think that being a star brings you a lot of money and glory. In fact, you lose even more. I feel like I'm locked in a cage. I can't go anywhere. I want to walk on the street without any restraint. I want to breathe the free air." Jiang Xiu said. "In the end, you died before you could succeed. You broke your leg before you even stepped out of the door. The outside world doesn't suit you. You'd better go back to the cage." "It was an accident. It was completely an accident." Xiao Xuetong refuted seriously. "It was just that it was her first time and she lacked experience. Plus, she was too nervous. She just needed to practice more in the future. No one could deprive her of her right to pursue freedom." "Then where do you plan to go?" Xiao Xuetong shook her head. Even she didn't know where she was going. She just wanted to escape, but she didn't have a specific plan. She said, "You go ahead first. I'll think about it." They were in the suburbs. It was 7 or 8 kilometers to the city. If it weren't for Jiang Xiu's divine body, even the most robust man wouldn't be able to bear it. A 7-seater car suddenly rushed out from the roadside. Before the car stopped, the door was opened. A group of masked men rushed out and took Xiao Xuetong away without any explanation. Xiao Xuetong was stunned for a moment, then immediately realized what was going on. She shouted in horror, "Kidnapping! Quick, save me!" Jiang Xiu also realized that something was wrong. He thought that Xiao Xuetong's boss had sent people to take her back, but he noticed that these people were all wearing masks. They couldn't be people from Xiao Xuetong's company. Jiang Xiu rushed over and grabbed the half-open door. The robber couldn't close it anymore, but the driver stepped on the accelerator. Whoosh. The car rushed forward. Jiang Xiu couldn't stop the sudden burst of power, and the car rushed out. Everything happened in a flash. The car had rushed out more than 10 meters. Let me go. Save me. Xiao Xuetong's terrified scream resounded in the suburban alley at night. Her pretty face was pale with fright. She didn't dare to think about what would happen to her if she fell into the hands of these kidnappers. Shut up, bitch. Be careful or I'll kill you. The car was driving fast on the alley. Look, a robber exclaimed. All the robbers followed his gaze and saw a figure running fast behind the car. It was Jiang Xiu. He was chasing the car. Damn, he's chasing a car. Who does he think he is? Idiot. The robber didn't care. It was too stupid for a man to chase a car. Beauty Xiao, who is this guy? He's so desperate. A robber next to him said. He's just too stupid. Although Xiao Xuetong was terrified, she still looked back curiously. She saw Jiang Xiu running fast and chasing the car. Seeing this, Xiao Xuetong felt warm. A glimmer of hope was ignited in her desperate heart. He hadn't given up. Although Xiao Xuetong knew it was unrealistic. How could a man catch up with a car? But she still had hope. This guy is really good at running. A car could cover half a mile with a step of the gas. But a man had to run a kilometer at full speed. Who could stand it? He would be paralyzed. It's too damn strange. A robber looked at the dashboard in front of him. The car was going at 120 kilometers per hour, but he still couldn't get rid of the idiot. Damn. Did I see a ghost? The robbers were all stunned. If they knew that the current speed for spiritual cultivation was like an old man going downstairs for a walk after dinner, how would they feel? Go faster. Finally, when the car reached 150 kilometers per hour, Jiang Xiu's figure was getting farther and farther away. Phew. The robbers breathed a sigh of relief. One of them felt a chill run down his spine. We finally got rid of him. The robber driving the car was stunned for a while before saying, that guy chased us for 5 or 6 miles, and his speed was over 100 kilometers per hour. Was it that long? It shouldn't be that long. Maybe it was just a while. He's good at running. Maybe he's a sports guy. Seeing Jiang Xiu disappear completely on the dim road, Xiao Xuetong closed her eyes in despair. She once thought that Jiang Xiu could catch up with her, but in the end she said, "What are you doing? Let me go." One of the robbers said, "What are we doing? You'll know when we get there." "Let me go. How much money do you want? Just name it." To Xiao Xuetong, money was just a worldly possession. She wouldn't feel bad no matter how much money was given. With her fame, she could earn it back quickly. She was worried that these robbers would violate her. That was her greatest fear. She didn't dare to think about it. Money. That person seemed to be the leader of the robbers. Of course we need money. But how much money would be enough to match Miss Xu's net worth? 10 million? 50 million? But no matter how much money you have, we brothers will be clean after going around the casino. If Miss Xu could give us a few million to spend in the future, that would be great. But if we let you go, would you still give us money? That was definitely impossible. So we thought of a way to make a movie for Miss Xu. It doesn't need to be too long. When the time comes, if Miss Xu doesn't remember to give us money, we'll upload the movie online. Xiao Xuetong naturally knew what this so-called movie was. In an instant, her pretty face turned snow white. The thing she was most worried about had happened. Whoosh. The car sped past. The robber driving the car blinked his eyes hard. He saw a person standing on the roadside in front of him. He looked very similar to the kid just now, but the car was very fast and sped past him in an instant. No, that's impossible. He was driving on a straight road. Jiang Xiu had no reason to overtake him. The car smoothly entered the city and slowed down to about 80 kilometers per hour. But at the traffic light in front of them, a figure stood there. It was Jiang Xiu again. The robber driving the car's eyes almost popped out. He must have seen wrongly. The car continued to move forward. At the next traffic light, Jiang Xiu appeared again. He appeared on the left side just now, but this time, Jiang Xiu appeared on the right side. He was holding a cup of coffee in his hand. It seemed that he had bought it on the way. It seemed to be the brand of Human Skull's coffee. He looked at the robber with a smile on his face. Gulp. The robber driving the car felt that his throat had become very dry. He was not thirsty, but it was caused by fear. The extreme fear in his heart caused it. It can't be. Cold sweat continued to drip from his forehead. Don't scare yourself. He took a deep breath and decided to focus on driving. When he looked up, he saw a person standing on the overpass in the distance. It was that kid again. He was still holding the coffee from Human Skull's coffee. The robber driving the car's eyes almost popped out. When the car reached the foot of the overpass, he plucked up the courage to look up. At this glance, he saw Jiang Xiu's face clearly. His heart completely collapsed. It was that kid. He suddenly braked. He didn't care whether he was in the middle of the road or not. He directly pushed the door open and rushed out of the car. He screamed, "Ghost!" The accomplices in the car were startled by the sudden scene. The robber leader even cursed. Who would have thought that when he looked up, he was also completely stunned? In an instant, there was dead silence in the car. The man standing on the bridge that day had cold eyes. There was a faint steam rising from the coffee cup in his hand. However, it looked so strange in the night. Chapter 108. Without a driver, the car lost control. One could imagine the consequences. With the skills of the robbers in the car, they could rush to the driver's seat and take control of the car. However, they were all stunned. How could a human be faster than a car? At this moment, they also suspected that the person chasing their car on the side of the road was not a human, but a ghost. A righteous ghost wanted to save people? What happened next scared them out of their wits. They saw Jiang Xiu holding the railing of the overpass with one hand and jumping off the overpass. What the F***CK, it was more than 5 meters high, and there were cars coming and going. Even if they didn't fall to their deaths, they would be killed by the car. And he said he wasn't a ghost? The robbers didn't realize that the car had lost control and was crashing forward. When they realized it, they panicked. However, it was too late. The car was already uncontrollably crashing forward. With a loud bang, Jiang Xiu landed from the sky and pressed his palm on the front of the car. A huge force burst out and blocked the car. The metal of the front of the car was dented, and it was forcefully held in place. The robbers deserved to die, but Xiao Xueqing was still inside. If they hit her, the consequences would be unimaginable. It exploded, it exploded. Oh my God. The robbers were completely stunned. One hand was holding the car, and he said he wasn't a ghost? Bang bang. The car was fine, but the car behind it was miserable. The driver couldn't react at all. After a sudden braking, the back of the car was hit. One car hit another, and 5 cars hit the back of the car in a row. It was a tragic sight. For a moment, the sound of the horn was incessant. Jiang Xiu opened the car door. The robbers inside looked at him in horror. You really have guts. You actually dared to snatch someone from my hands? Ghost, ghost. The group of robbers who never believed in ghosts were so scared that their legs trembled. They didn't even have the courage to resist. Even though they were in the downtown area and were surrounded by people, they didn't feel any sense of security, because they knew that they were targeted by this ghost. Sirens could be heard from afar. It's the police. The police are here. In the past, when they heard the siren, they gnashed their teeth in hatred. But now, when they heard the siren, they were so happy that it was as if they heard that their mother was here. Police, save me. Help. From the beginning to the end, Xiao Xueqing didn't understand what was going on because she was trapped in the back seat and couldn't see the situation in front of her clearly. She only heard the driver shout "Ghost!" and then he jumped out of the car. Then the car lost control and stopped suddenly. She was caught off guard and hit her head on the seat in front of her. She was in a high degree of dizziness. In a daze, she seemed to see Jiang Xiu and then she fainted. Aren't you robbers? Even if they were robbers, they still needed the righteous police to save them. He would rather go to jail than be targeted by this ghost. It was too King scary. When Jiang Xiu saw that Xiao Xueqing didn't move at all, he was shocked. Did something happen to her? He didn't have time to deal with the robbers and rushed to the car hurriedly. He held her hand and found that her pulse was normal. She must have fainted. The robbers were so scared that they all jumped out of the car window, but none of them dared to escape. It was said that it was useless to run away after being targeted by a ghost. They were now begging to go to jail. One by one, the robbers were actually willing to wait for the police to come and arrest them. In their hearts, they were even praying that the police would come faster. This time, the police were absolutely helpful. The main reason was that when the kidnapping happened on the roadside, someone saw it. Although he couldn't see clearly that it was Xiao Xuetong who was kidnapped, he was very sure that it had happened. After hesitating for a while, he called the police. The Jiangqing police immediately pulled up the surveillance video. It was indeed a kidnapping. Then they kept an eye on the car all the way, so they came really quickly. Don't move. Don't move. The criminal police in the police car rushed down and surrounded the 7-seater car with guns in their hands. The robbers were already very cooperative. They knelt down on both knees and raised their hands high. They heaved a long sigh of relief. We're saved. We're saved. One of the police officers rushed into the car of the robbers. Then, he saw Jiang Xiu and Xiao Xuetong. His gaze immediately fell on Xiao Xuetong, because he knew that the kidnapped person was a girl. But when he saw her, he was suddenly shocked. It was actually the famous celebrity Xiao Xuetong. At this moment, he felt a surge of blood surging up. He had made a great contribution. The hostage he saved was actually Xiao Xuetong. Don't move. Put your hands on your head and squat down, Jiang Xiu said. I'm not a robber. I'm saving someone. The police officer was in his 30s and was a vice captain. He was very brave and had a lot of combat experience. He roared loudly. I'll say it again. Put your hands on your head and squat down. That angry gaze and the hand holding the gun tightened. It seemed that if Jiang Xiu didn't cooperate, he would shoot. Jiang Xiu had no choice but to raise his hand. The police officer didn't provoke Jiang Xiu anymore. Get out of the car. His first priority now was to ensure Xiao Xuetong's safety. As long as she was safe, then this mission would be completed. The hostage he saved was Xiao Xuetong, a popular A-list actress. With her influence, it would be unreasonable if he didn't get promoted. See, they're all wearing masks on their heads. They're the robbers. I'm saving someone. Jiang Xiu was really anxious about the intelligence of these police officers. At this time, Xiao Xuetong was unconscious and couldn't testify for him. Cut the crap. Put the handcuffs on him. Jiang Xiu was a little annoyed. He was kind enough to save someone, but he was wronged. They even wanted to handcuff him. He decided to reveal his identity. Otherwise, it might really be ugly. Is this how you do things? I forced the car to stop. I caught the robbers. If it wasn't for me, would those people be fools? Would they just stand there and let you catch them? Police officer Chunbin was also surprised. When they arrived, the robbers were already kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. He believed Jiang Xiu's words, but how could he let a commoner take away such a big credit? They don't know what they are talking about. We have already set up an inescapable net. We blocked all the escape routes. Only then did the robbers surrender. Jiang Xiu froze for a moment and frowned. Although he was in the car just now, he knew the situation outside clearly. The police caught up from behind, and there were no cars coming from other roads. This showed that this person was lying. Thinking that the person who was saved was Xiao Xuetong, Jiang Xiu's heart was like a mirror. It turned out that he wanted to rob the credit. What? You have nothing to say. I think you're the kidnapper and the mastermind. Jiang Xiu's eyes were cold. Say it again? Jiang Xiu didn't care about such a credit at all. To him, it was completely useless. However, this person actually wanted to frame him as the mastermind of the robbers in order to get the credit. You're still giving me a hard time. Cuff him. The police officers on the side didn't hold back anymore. They directly barbecued Jiang Xiu and put him in the police car. In the interrogation room of the police station, Chunbin personally interrogated Jiang Xiu in order to avoid any accidents. This case must be confirmed. This credit must not slip through his fingers. Name age. Jiang Xiu 17. Where do you live? The news spread quickly. Xiao Xuetong's boss, agent and lawyer rushed to the police station as soon as possible. The situation was like an earthquake, followed by hundreds of paparazzi. For a moment, the police station was surrounded. How is Xiao Xiao now? Is she okay? As for the police of Jiangqing City, even the housing bureau rushed over as soon as possible. This was a big matter. The kidnapping of a big star probably had a greater impact than the kidnapping of a leader. More importantly, the matter had been resolved successfully. This time, the police of Jiangqing City had shown their faces. Everyone, we have no comment. The housing bureau immediately went to the interrogation room. When Chunbin saw the big boss coming over, he immediately stood up. The housing bureau waved his hand and said, "How is it? Have you explained everything?" Chunbin said, "The housing bureau came out. That kid kept saying that he was the one who saved her." The housing bureau said, "Bullsh *T." Hearing this, Chunbin understood and immediately had an idea. But he's very stubborn. No matter how stubborn he is, it's useless. Do you know what to do? Xiao Xuetong's influence is very big. After the case is out, the whole country will probably know about it by tomorrow morning. Our Jiangqing City will become the focus of the country. Do you understand? How can such a big star be saved by a little kid? 7 or 8 robbers who would believe that? The housing bureau said. Do you still need me to teach you what to do? Chapter 109. Chunbin returned to the interrogation room with a relaxed expression. With the housing bureau supporting him, he had nothing to worry about. He looked at Jiang Xiu with a hint of pity in his eyes. It seemed that Jiang Xiu was destined to be the scapegoat. Confess. Don't be stubborn. It's useless. We've already asked clearly. Jiang Xiu said. What clearly? Are you trying to wrong me? We never wrong a good person, but we will never let a bad person go. Chunbin leaned forward and said in a low voice, the robbers have already confessed. You're their accomplice. Jiang Xiu narrowed his eyes. Was he trying to frame him? Confess and we'll be lenient. Resist and we'll be strict. Chunbin said, Kid, don't be so shameless. Still not confessing? Jiang Xiu said. I didn't do it. What do you want me to confess? Chunbin said, be honest. Your accomplices have already confessed. They've all confessed. It's useless for you to resist. What did they confess? Chunbin said, don't play dumb. They've already admitted that you're the mastermind. In fact, the group of people were still in the interrogation room, terrified. They were shouting, Ghost, there's a ghost. Jiang Xiu said with great interest. So it's useless whether I confess or not? Chunbin said in a very cold voice, yes. But if you confess, your sentence will be reduced. Jiang Xiu thought for a moment and asked, how many years will I be sentenced to? If you ask for leniency, 3 or 4 years. Jiang Xiu said, are you sure you won't regret what I said? Ha ha ha. Chunbin could already see the position of Captain waving at him. Regret. He would regret if he didn't cook. He said, it's the duty of the police to crack down on criminals. Even if we face revenge, we won't regret it. Jiang Xiu said, all right, I'll explain. Chunbin was overjoyed when he heard this. He thought that Jiang Xiu would resist stubbornly. Although he could still make the case a dead case, it would take a lot of effort and a lot of risk. It was best if he admitted it himself, because there was no risk. He thought to himself, this brat is quite tactful. All right, tell me what's going on. Who instigated you? Tell me everything. Jiang Xiu said, I am indeed the kidnapper. The one who ordered us to kidnap Xiao Xuetong is called Old Gu. How do you communicate? Jiang Xiu said, through the phone. His number is 158. The more Chunbin listened, the more he felt that something was amiss. This kid was really a robber. He was so excited that he accidentally got it right. This time, he was going to be rich. He had suffered in the position of deputy captain for 7 years. How many 7 years did he have in his life? It was all because he had no background and no achievements. Now that he had saved Xiao Xuetong, he had one face for Jiangqing, no for the entire Jiangnan province's police force. There was no reason for him not to be promoted. Then how did you get involved in the accident? Jiang Xiu said. Unequal distribution of the loot, internal strife. Sure enough, Chunbin said. Unequal distribution of the loot. That's right. Continue to explain. 10 minutes later, Chunbin appeared in the office of the Housing Bureau. Housing Bureau. He said that this is the phone number of the mastermind, 158. Good, well done. The Housing Bureau personally ordered. Immediately lock onto the location of the phone. Things were often so coincidental. The phone number that Jiang Xiu reported was the private number that Gu Shu had left for him during the day. If he had returned to Hangzhou today, the police system would have been able to lock onto the residence of Jiangnan No. 1. They would not have dared to act rashly. However, Gu Shu did not return to Hangzhou directly. He had some matters to attend to in Jiangcheng, and had to stay the night in Jiangcheng. Housing Bureau. We have locked onto the location of the phone. It's at Haozheng Hotel. Chunbin, you will personally lead the team to arrest the culprit. There must be no mistakes. Yes, the police car arrived at Haozheng Hotel. Chunbin contacted the Housing Bureau again. In order to lock onto the exact location, he needed the phone to be in the middle of a call. The Housing Bureau took out his phone and made a call. Jiangnan Frontier was already asleep at this time. He did not usually pick up calls, but this was his private number. He picked it up and said, "Hello." He was still in a daze from his sleep. Before he could say anything, the Housing Bureau's dignified voice sounded, "Hello, old Gu." There was even a hint of mockery in his voice. In Gu Shu's memory, no one had ever dared to speak to him in such a tone. He frowned. Furthermore, he had been sleeping soundly when he was woken up by a phone call. His anger flared up. "Who are you?" "Who am I?" "Ha ha ha." The Housing Bureau laughed. He had already received the signal. Chunbin had already locked onto the location. He said, "I'm investigating a case. You are now related to a kidnapping case. You better cooperate with us. Otherwise," Gu Shu suppressed his anger and asked, "Otherwise what? Do you know what kind of crime kidnapping is? The sentence is more than 10 years in prison." "Fine, then you come and arrest me." Jiangnan Frontier had never been as angry as he was at this moment. He felt as if his whole body was about to burst into flames. However, he still maintained a calm tone. No one could hear the anger in his heart at this moment. "I'm at Haozheng Hotel, 1331 Presidential Suite." The Housing Bureau was stunned for a moment. After a while, he reacted. Damn, he had seen arrogant robbers before, but he had never seen someone so arrogant. He actually dared to challenge him in public. "I'll do as you wish." Chunbin, who was already blocking the door, received the order from the Housing Bureau. He broke down the door. Gu Shu, who was in the room, hung up the phone. He was furious. What the hell? How dare the investigation involve him in Jiangnan Frontier's case? Gu Shu had thought about it. When he returned to Hangzhou tomorrow, he would take care of all those bastards. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The luxurious door of the hotel's presidential suite was blown open by a bomb. Gu Shu was shocked. Then he saw fully armed police officers rushing in. "Don't move." The brave Deputy Captain Chunbin rushed up to Gu Shu and pressed him down. Gu Shu had not exercised for many years. In addition, he was old. After being pressed down so roughly, he screamed. "I told you to scream." Deputy Captain Chunbin flipped the handle of his gun and hit Gu Shu's head, making him dizzy. "Take him away." At this time, Deputy Captain Chunbin's heart was filled with pride. Done, the hostage was rescued, and the main culprit was arrested. Today's matter was done perfectly. He even waved his fist at his subordinates. It was the first time in his life that Gu Shu was arrested and brought to the police station. One could imagine how angry the people of Jiangnan Frontier were at this time. If there was a grenade in his hand, he would definitely blow up this group of bastards. He was livid and did not make a sound. It was so quiet that it was scary. Before a storm came, there was usually silence. He was arranged in a secret room, and there was a row of people standing next to him. He was familiar with this procedure. This was the police's identification procedure. "And our spiritual cultivation was arranged to identify people," he said. "You really caught him." Chunbin sneered. "Does he have 3 heads and 6 arms? Can't we catch him?" "You overestimate him. The spiritual cultivation really wanted to give him a big compliment. You're very efficient." Through the glass, Jiang Xiu saw a man in his 50s with gray hair, wearing a white vest, and a big bump on his head. If it was not Gu Shu, who else could it be? At this time, the Jiangnan frontier was a bit miserable. His face was dull, and he did not even have a pair of shoes on his feet. He moved twice in pain. Which one is old Gu? Point him out. Jiang Xiu pointed at Gu Shu without any loyalty and said, "It's him. He's the one who ordered me to kidnap Xiao Xueqing." At this time the housing bureau came. He was in high spirits. Just now, Jiang Qingshu called him and gave him a big reward. At this time he was already on his way to the police station. He had to pay close attention to this situation. "How is it?" Chen Bin said excitedly. "We didn't catch the wrong person. Everything is settled." The housing bureau nodded in satisfaction and gave him a look of appreciation. "This young man is not bad. Just wait for the promotion." Also, he wanted to see who was so arrogant and dared to challenge him in public. When he came to the front of the glass and saw Gu Shu standing in the cell, he felt as if his brain had been smashed. He was so stunned that the cigarette between his fingers fell to the ground. Qimbin definitely did not know Gu Shu, but the housing bureau knew him. At this moment, he felt that his whole world was about to collapse. That's him. He's the mastermind. Mastermind your head. Chapter 110. The director of the housing bureau looked at Chunbin as if he had seen a ghost. He stared at Chunbin and wanted to bite him to death. This person is the mastermind? Chunbin nodded excitedly. Yes, it's him. This person is very cunning. He personally planned this earth-shattering kidnapping case. He's very bold. He actually dared to target Miss Xiao Xuedong. The director of the housing bureau wanted to cry but had no tears. Do you know what you're doing? Chunbin straightened himself up and saluted in a heroic manner. His tone was resolute as he said, "Serve the people." What the F***CK? The director of the housing bureau wanted to tear this guy apart. His heart was filled with despair. Looking at Gu Daji in the identification room, the director of the housing bureau thought to himself, no wonder he was so arrogant when I called him. In Jiangnan, if he wasn't arrogant, who would be? Do you know who he is? Chunbin said. I know. He's the mastermind, Old Gu. Old Gu. Wasn't that Old Gu? Jiang Xiu looked at this scene with great interest. From Fang Yizong's expression, he knew that the director of the housing bureau recognized Gu Deji. As the #1 police force in Jiangqing City, there was no way he wouldn't know about the Jiangnan frontier. This was going to be interesting. Since you've done this, don't blame me for returning the favor. How are you sure that he's the mastermind? Arresting someone from the Jiangnan frontier as a kidnapper was the most ridiculous thing in the world. Now, not to mention using the credit of solving Xiao Xuedong's case to get promoted. Even protecting Wu Sha was a problem. Looking closely, there was a big bump on Gu Shu's head. It was obvious that he had been hit. It's over. Not only did he mistakenly arrest someone from the Jiangnan frontier, he even hit him. Sigh. The housing bureau hit his head hard and squatted down in despair. He really hoped that this was just a nightmare, and that nothing would happen after he woke up. Chunbin finally felt that something was wrong. He asked, Housing Bureau, what's wrong? The head of the housing bureau looked up at him and roared angrily. Hurry up and release him. Fang Yizong roared. Do you fucking know who he is? Don't you even read the political news on a daily basis? If Chunbin had read the news on a daily basis, how could he not know who this person was? If he had recognized Gu Shu at the hotel, the situation could still be salvaged. Now even he was in trouble. Chunbin, just wait for your dismissal and investigation. He stood up angrily and rushed out without looking back. He wanted to get Gu Shu out. Housing Bureau. Chunbin was confused. He tried hard to recall everything that had happened since he started handling the case. He didn't seem to have done anything wrong. He asked, who is this person? Jiang Xiu said, Jiangnan Province Provincial Party Committee Secretary Gu Deji Gu Shu. Boom. Chunbin froze on the spot. It was as if he had been struck by lightning. He was dumbfounded. You lied to me? Jiang Xiu said. Didn't you want to wrongly accuse me? Then I'll let you do it. Chunbin glared at him angrily. He had arrested someone from the Jiangnan frontier as a robber. Prepare to receive the wrath of Jiangnan number 1. Chunbin's mind went blank. He was shrouded in endless despair. His body swayed and he almost couldn't stand still. He suddenly thought of something and rushed out. Through the glass, he could see that Gu Deji had been escorted out. Not long after, someone came to uncuff Jiang Xiu and apologized to Jiang Xiu. Gu Deji sat there with a cold face. There was a big bump on his head, but he had already put on his clothes. He, Gu Deji, had lived for more than 50 years and had never been so humiliated like this. There were no less than 20 people gathered in the large surveillance hall of the police station. However, there was not a single sound. It was as silent as death. Only the faint sound of electromagnetism could be heard. The Provincial Party Committee of Jiangnan, and the people involved, Fang Songyi and Qin, lowered their heads like criminals, waiting for the verdict. Jiang Xiu walked in. Gu Shu stood up. He squeezed out a bitter smile and said, "This is really embarrassing. Today, I, as a citizen of the Jiangnan frontier, have lost all face." Jiang Xiu said, "This noble one's face is also gone." Gu Shu asked, "What exactly is going on?" Jiang Xiu sat down and asked, "They still haven't given an explanation?" "That's right. How would they dare to say it? This noble one saved them, but how could they let this noble one get away with such a big merit? Therefore, they thought of framing this noble one as a robber. That way, no one would fight with them for the merit." Gu Shu's face suddenly turned ashen. He originally thought that Jiang Xiu was deliberately embarrassing him. Only now did he know that the ones who really embarrassed him were the police officers under his command. What? In today's society, there's still such a thing. Damn it to the extreme. He slammed his hand on the table. The files on the table fell to the ground. The people around him were scared out of their wits. This matter was serious. It was simply a disgrace to the entire police force. The Housing Bureau and Qinbin were so scared that they almost fell to the ground. Fang Yizong said, "Gu Shu, all of these tasks were carried out by Vice Captain Qinbin. I am responsible for not supervising well. I didn't know the inside story." Qinbin's face was ashen. Gu Shu said, "Strip him of his police uniform." "No," Qinbin screamed in horror. In order to climb up the ranks, he suffered so much, took so many risks, and made so many contributions. It wasn't easy for him to reach the position of vice captain. How could he lose that little bit of power just like that? "Gu Shu, you can't just listen to his words." When I arrived at the scene, he was in the car. He was still holding Xiao Xuetong hostage. Of course he's the prime suspect. What did I do wrong? Gu Shu wants to remove me from my position. I can't accept it. Maybe this person is the kidnapper. Gu Deji was so angry that he laughed. "Do you know who the kidnapper you're talking about is?" Chunbin shook his head. "He's the famous Jiang Luoxia in Jiangcheng. Mr. Jiang." The whole police station was in an uproar. Jiang Luoxia. Mr. Jiang. It exploded. Chunbin was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out. He looked at Jiang Xiu in disbelief. Mr. Jiang? The Mr. Jiang who stood at the peak of Jiangcheng and was sought after by all the tycoons in Jiangcheng? Gu Deji said. "You dare say that Mr. Jiang is the kidnapper? If this person was Mr. Jiang, how could such a big shot do such a thing, let alone appear at the crime scene?" No, Chunbin's last strand of nerve snapped. He screamed like a madman. You set me up. If Jiang Xiu had revealed his identity earlier and called a big shot to bail him out, this wouldn't have happened. It was all his fault. I'll fight you to the death." He rushed toward Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu smiled coldly. His hands were handcuffed. Chunbin was no match for him. Moreover, he could move freely now. With a bang, Chunbin's entire person flew out backward. He fell 6 or 7 meters away. He spat out blood but still stood up. His head kept twitching and he looked a little crazy. He said, "You ruined me. I won't let you have it easy." Suddenly, he took out his pistol. Whoosh. The hall was in an uproar. Everyone was frightened and retreated. At this time, Chunbin had completely lost his mind. A few of his lackeys shouted, Protect Gu Shu. You want to kill me? Jiang Xiu's tone was calm. Instead of retreating, he walked toward him step by step. Do you think I don't dare to shoot? Chen Bin roared. At this moment, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Everyone looked at Jiang Xiu. It was rumored that this person had extraordinary strength. However, no matter how high his martial arts cultivation was, he couldn't block a gun. Moreover, the two of them were so close to each other. Shoo! Jiang Xiu shouted angrily. Bang! Chen Bin was provoked and immediately pulled the trigger. Everyone screamed again. Gu Deji's eyes widened. He actually shot. He didn't expect things to get out of hand. In the end, someone died. Jiang Luoxia was really courting death. Chen Bin's emotions were unstable, but he still provoked him. What was the difference between that and courting death? However, what happened next caused everyone's pupils to shrink. A copper bullet hung half a meter in front of Jiang Xiu. At this moment, it was as if time had stopped. Upon closer inspection, they found that Jiang Xiu's body was shrouded in a faint light shield. On the light shield, waves of light rippled with the bullet as the center, but it couldn't break through the light shield. Jiang Xiu reached out and took the bullet in his hand. Ghost, ghost. Chen Bin then remembered why those robbers said that they had met a ghost. Gu Deji was also dumbfounded by what he saw. Oh my god! Chapter 111. Everyone in the police station was dumbfounded. This scene had completely overturned their worldview. How could they deal with someone who was not even afraid of bullets, and even stop the bullets in the air? What kind of existence was this? Even the government felt great pressure when facing him. In the vast Hua nation, there were not many people who could do anything to him. You want to shoot me? Chen Bin could no longer suppress the fear in his heart, and knelt down with a thud. Die. Jiang Xiu flicked his finger lightly, and the bullet in his hand flew out, bringing with it a terrifying ray of light. With a poochie sound, the bullet pierced through Chen Bin's head. It felt like a pistol with a silencer. Blood burst out from between Jiang Xiu's eyebrows and came out from the back of his head. Suddenly, his pupils dilated, and his eyes lost their luster. His body fell forward and fell into a pool of blood. He died on the spot. Gasp! Everyone present gasped and stared blankly at what they saw in front of them. It was too shocking. He could kill someone like that. What made his mother even more shocked was that this person was really daring. In the police station, in front of so many police officers and leaders, especially Gu Shu, he dared to kill someone right in front of him. They all saw Jiang Xiu kill someone, but none of them dared to say anything, let alone accuse Jiang Xiu. Did they want to die? Moreover, even if they did, how could the case be decided? How could they prove that he caught Chen Bin's bullet with his bare hands, and then threw it out to kill Chen Bin? Besides, Chen Bin was the one who wanted to kill him first. Jiang Xiu sat down again, not caring about their gazes. Gu Shu, you have to give me an explanation for this matter, right? Gu Deji had long heard that Mr. Zhang's methods were vicious. Those who offended him did not have a good ending. Today he witnessed it with his own eyes. He could have kept Mr. Zhang alive, but he still killed him. He could not help but be wary of Jiang Xiu. Everyone was afraid of such a ruthless character. However, Gu Deji, who was from the Jiangnan frontier, was not an ordinary person. He quickly calmed down and said, "Punish all the people involved." Absolutely not. The faces of all the police officers present changed greatly. Feng Songyi cried out involuntarily, "Gu Shu were innocent, innocent. Withdraw all of them." Arresting him, the Jiangnan number 1, was enough to get them all fired. Moreover, he had offended Mr. Jiang. Of course, he had to appease Jiang Xiu's anger. In his heart, he was still planning to tell his brother that Jiang Xiu's divine ability had directly fixed the bullet in the air. This ability was really too shocking. Fortunately, they had coincidentally seen Jiang Xiu's divine power today. Otherwise, the Gu family would have missed the opportunity to meet such a powerful expert. Mr. Jiang is quite satisfied with the way things have been handled. Of course, with a thump, Feng Songyi's strength seemed to have been sucked out of his body. His body went limp and fell to the ground. The throne of the bureau chief, which he had worked so hard for so many years, was lost early in the morning. Bureau chief, bad news. A police officer rushed in from outside and stopped mid-sentence. He saw that the vice-captain was dead in the hall. The tables and chairs were all over the floor, and the bureau chief was also lying on the ground. What happened? Gushu asked. Oh, it's like this. My colleagues at the hospital sent news that Xiao Xuetong has disappeared again. He paused and said, her disappearance is very strange. She went out with a snake. Snake. I have a video here. As he spoke, he plugged the USB into the computer and played the video. In the video, Xiao Xuetong was wearing a patient's gown. She was in a daze, and her eyes were dull. She walked out of the elevator, and there was indeed a snake crawling in front of her. Jiang Xiu saw that the image of the demonic god on Xiao Xuetong's face was much clearer than before, and it was emitting a terrifying power of the demonic curse. He looked at the snake again, and there was a black aura in its eyes. It was very evil. Why does it look like she's been possessed? To be precise, she was indeed possessed. Organize the people immediately and rescue Miss Xiao Xuetong as soon as possible. Gushu ordered. He was a high-ranking official, so he naturally did not care about such a small matter. However, he was here, so he naturally gave the orders. However, it was the police station's job to organize the rescue. Yes, the deputy bureau chief on the side responded, and then immediately organized a special team to solve the case. Mr. Jiang, I've been nagging all day. Let me invite you to a place to sit down and have a drink to calm you down, Gu Deji said. Consider it my apology. Jiang Xiu said, Gushu, you'd better go to the hospital to have your injuries checked first. This time he did not really want to accompany Cheng Lingsu to watch the concert. He came because of the demonic god behind Xiao Xueqing. First, he sent people to kidnap Xiao Xuetong. Then he used witchcraft to get rid of Xiao Xuetong. Jiang Xiu had reason to believe that the person behind all this should be the same person, and it should be the same demonic god. Gushu touched the wound on his forehead and felt a little embarrassed. It was really embarrassing. I'm going to the hospital too. Let's go together. Naturally, Gushu would not refuse. Jiang Chengshu, who was on the side, quickly asked someone to prepare a car, and sent the two big shots to the car. After Gushu arrived at the hospital, the relevant injuries were checked, and Jiang Xiu went to the ward where Xiao Xuetong was. When he arrived, the deputy bureau chief, Wu Rong, was checking the room with someone. For the police, the most troublesome thing was to encounter a supernatural case. It was completely beyond their scope, and there was nothing they could do. They could only try their best helplessly. Who's there? When the police saw Jiang Xiu barging into the ward, they loudly tried to stop him. Mr. Jiang. When Wu Rong saw Jiang Xiu, he hurriedly ran over. I'm here to take a look, Wu Rong said. That couldn't be better. We have never encountered such a case before. We have no clue, and we don't know where to start investigating. Jiang Xiu did not answer him and walked straight in. His eyes narrowed slightly into a line. The room in his field of vision changed, but there did not seem to be any abnormalities. Finally, his gaze fell on the bed, and there was nothing different. However, when his gaze fell on the bed, there was a straight line of twisted black fog on the ground, as if a snake had crawled past. He walked all the way out of the black fog. This snake was very spiritual and very intelligent. It actually crawled along the corner of the wall. If it did not chase out of the room, the black fog would often be difficult to notice. The corner of the wall was dim to begin with. He went all the way down the stairs and walked to the open space of the hospital. He could not help but look up at the sky and said to himself, no wonder. So today is the 9th day. The full moon in the sky was covered with a layer of halo, and the entire sky was gloomy. Mr. Jiang, did you find anything? Wu Rong, who was beside him, asked. Follow this noble one. After saying that, Jiang Xiu continued to walk forward. He walked all the way to the forest in front of him. There were two people standing outside the forest. One of them was Xiao Xuetong's manager, Lai Jia, and the other was a middle-aged man with an extraordinary aura. Wu Rong recognized them. What's going on? Suddenly, a shrill, beast-like voice came from the forest. Wu Rong turned pale with fright. He pulled out his gun and was about to rush forward. Don't go in. As soon as he finished speaking, a person ran out of the forest. This person was wearing a Taoist robe. He was actually a mage. I can't, this monster has already become a demon. The man said, really? Boss Wang, I'm really not lying to you. It's just that this kind of thing, even if I told you, you would find it hard to believe. That snake has already become a demon. Since my grandmaster, generations of us have taken it as our responsibility to kill this demon. It has been more than 100 years since then. Lai Jie said in disbelief. 100 years? Wu Rong also didn't believe it. For Jiang Xiu to stop the bullet and then throw it out to kill people. This was all within the scope of his understanding. He was a martial arts expert. But for a snake to become a demon, this was simply absurd. Was he filming a new white lady? Moreover, Miss Xiao Xuetong has been targeted by a demon. A voice sounded. A snake needs 500 years to become a demon. That wasn't a snake cultivating to become a demon, but a yin snake. Its evil aura was imbued into the snake's corpse, and it was refined using a secret method. Insignificant skill. Hearing this, the mage looked towards the voice and saw a young man slowly walking over with his hands behind his back. His gaze fell on the forest, and his eyes sparkled under the night sky. He was very elegant. However, this tone was too big. Not to mention whether or not it was as he had judged, that it was only a yin snake. Refining a yin snake could have caused 3 generations of his ancestors to die an unnatural death. How could this be a small trick? You're scared of a mere yin snake? Chapter 112. This sorcerer was not very famous, but he boasted that he was a true defender of the law. He was a person with real abilities. When he saw a kid who was still wet behind his ears spouting such arrogant words, he could not help but frown. Who are you? How arrogant of you. Although he was not famous, his ancestor was extremely famous. His surname was Zhang, and he came from Dragon Tiger Path Mountain. His ancestor was the famous Taoist master Zhang Tianling. Naturally, he was also very arrogant. This is Mr. Jiang. The sorcerer snorted coldly. At his age, of course, he would announce his master's name when he went out. How dare he call himself Mr. Jiang? How shameless! He said stiffly. I've never heard of him. Not only him, even the man beside him and Lai Jie had never heard of him. They were not from Jiang City. In fact, outside of Jiang City, there were not many people who knew of Jiang Xiu. After all, he had just risen not long ago. Perhaps some people in the martial arts world had heard of him. Mr. Jiang, but Wu Rong saw that the sorcerer was very disdainful of Jiang Xiu. He wanted to tell him how important Mr. Jiang was in Jiang City and even Jiangnan province. However, he was stopped by Jiang Xiu. He shook his head lightly. Master Chang, what should we do now? Hurry up and think of a way. Xiao Xiao is still inside. Wu Rong was shocked. Miss Xu is in the forest? Lai Jie did not want to admit it, but at this point, she had to admit it. She said, yes, our Xiao Xiao seems to have been targeted by some evil spirit. After she became famous, there were a lot of strange things happening to her. First, she made a messy altar. After we banned her, she often sleepwalked. Moreover, she would kneel on the balcony and pray to heaven and earth. She would also talk nonstop. This time, we invited a sorcerer over. Someone wanted to kidnap her again. After the kidnapping, I was possessed again. Elder Sister Li frowned, and the man beside her also had a worried look on his face. He was the boss of Xiao Xueqing's company, and this little ancestor was a money tree. Why would such a problem happen to such a young girl? Master Chang said. Miss Xu sleepwalked to the balcony and kowtowed. Was it always a full moon night? This, Lai Jie muttered to herself. I didn't pay attention to that, but now that you've mentioned it, it seems to be the case. This is called moon worship. It's an ancient sorcery. Jiang Xiu couldn't help laughing. Although he didn't laugh out loud, Master Chang still saw the smile on Jiang Xiu's face. This made Master Chang very unhappy. What's the meaning of that smile? Are you doubting my words? This mister seems to have a different opinion. Jiang Xiu already knew that Xiao Xuerong was the medium through which the demonic god obtained the power of divine Tao. Naturally, he knew that it was not the worship of the moon, not to mention that the worship of the moon was not witchcraft. According to Lai Jie, Xiao Xuerong had made a messy shrine. Jiang Xiu suspected that was the beginning of everything. However, the shrine was banned by Lai Jie and the others because it was regarded as evil. The evil god then used the sacrificial method and collected it every once in a while, using the sacrificial method to gather the faith of the divine Tao. Master Chang retorted, "Nonsense. You're so young, yet you know what the sacrificial method is, and what the belief of the divine Tao is. Those are all God's servant techniques, mysterious and profound. Now Miss Xu has been bewitched. The other party is using all evil techniques." Jiang Xiu shook his head gently. "Boss Wang, I've always been a lone wolf when it comes to slaying demons and devils. I've never cooperated with anyone because I'm afraid that some people who are fishing for fame will not only not be of help, but will also confuse me and make me more of a hindrance. If anyone wants to interfere, I'll have to leave." Boss Wang was speechless when he heard this. The little ancestor was still in the woods and had no idea what was going on. If this powerful person left, who could save Xiao Xuerong? Themselves? Or the Jiangqing police? Could it be this immature kid in front of him? "Master Chang, please wait." He hurriedly stopped Master Zhang and turned to Jiang Xiu saying, "Mister, this matter has nothing to do with you. Please don't meddle in it anymore. Please leave." Wu Rong said, "This is a public place. Mr. Wang has no right to chase people away. Moreover, Mr. Jiang is here to help us find Miss Xu." Master Chang snorted. "You police can catch a thief, but do you know how to slay demons and devils? Ridiculous." Boss Wang said, "Officer, you've seen the situation. This is not something you police can interfere with. Please cooperate. If Master Chang is delayed and Xiao Xiao is implicated, you can't bear the responsibility." Wu Rong said, "It's our responsibility to protect the citizens." Before Mr. Jiang said he was leaving, Wu Rong naturally wouldn't compromise. Boss Wang frowned. "Officer, I'm good friends with the Housing Bureau of the Jiangqing Police Station. I just need to make a phone call, and you'll have to leave obediently. Don't ask for trouble." Wu Rong said, "Housing Bureau? Are you talking about Fang Tsungi?" "Yes. Unfortunately, your so-called Housing Bureau is no longer the director. He was just dismissed." Wu Rong said jokingly, "If you don't believe me, you can make a phone call." Boss Wang was experienced and knew that Wu Rong wouldn't joke about this kind of thing. He must be telling the truth. He suddenly felt a little embarrassed. However, if he couldn't chase them away, then Master Chang wouldn't be able to do anything. However, at this moment, the forest once again emitted a beast-like roar. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but jump in fright. They looked at the dark forest in horror. The sky above the forest was shrouded in yin energy, and a huge snake body could be vaguely seen. Whoa! This time it was even more frightening. "Oh my god!" Lai Jie was so frightened that she covered her mouth. "Did you see that? Did you see that?" Master Cheng's expression was very serious. "How can there be such a big yin snake in the world? What nonsense is it talking here? Boss Wang, you should believe me now." Boss Wang was already stunned and nodded mechanically. The snake spirit was 10 to 20 meters long. Looking from afar, it was indescribably creepy and scary under the dark night sky. One look at it made one's hair stand on end. "Master Chang, you must save Xiao Xiao. That little ancestor was a money tree. He couldn't let a monster eat her." Wu Rong was also stunned. There really was a monster. Jiang Xiu shook his head. "Today is the 9-yin day. The yin snake is just showing its evil aura." In other words, it was a cloud of evil aura. To put it bluntly, it was no different from a cloud in the sky that looked like a huge beast. One was evil aura and the other was just a cloud. It had no destructive power at all. "Nonsense. Are you trying to get us killed?" Master Chang said. "Boss Wang, if these people are still talking nonsense here, I won't keep them company." Don't. Boss Wang was shocked. After persuading Master Chang with great difficulty, Boss Wang glared at Jiang Xiu and Wu Rong. He said bluntly, Name a price. How much is it? We won't cause trouble here. They couldn't help but laugh. Boss Wang said, 100,000. I'll give you 100,000. Take the money and leave immediately. This person was really generous. He directly threw money at them and gave them 100,000. Jiang Xiu looked at him indifferently. Still not enough? Then 500,000. Wu Rong's face revealed a strange expression. In 2008, 500,000 was enough to buy 2 houses. 1 million. I can do what I say. Jiang Xiu smiled and shook his head. Money is useless. This sovereign doesn't lack money. What I need the most is the thing in front of me. After saying this, he didn't retreat. The biggest difference between the Yin snake and the snake demon is their attributes. As he said this, he had already walked forward. What does he want to do? Does he want to die? With such a large snake demon in the sky, walking over like this, wasn't he afraid of being swallowed? Jiang Xiu took out a piece of talisman paper and flung it in the air. The talisman burned in the air, and at the moment when the talisman burned, an unimaginably powerful exorcism force swept out like a gale. This is, Jiang Xiu calmly said, evil exorcism talisman. The burning talisman floated towards the snake demon at the top of the forest. Like the sun dispersing the darkness, the light from the flames shined on the snake demon. The snake demon's form disappeared without a trace. When the flames burned out, there was no trace of the snake demon in the forest. The evil exorcism talisman could only be used to expel evil. It couldn't be used against the snake demon. Master Chang was dumbstruck. Jiang Xiu's voice sounded in his ear. Answer this, sovereign. This is the Yin snake demon. Yes and no. Chapter 113. The demon snake just now was like a shadow that disappeared as soon as it was illuminated by the fire. But even after the talisman fire burned out, the demon snake did not appear in the sky above the forest again. Even the people present who did not understand understood that it was not a snake demon at all. How could it be a snake demon without a body? At most, it looked like one. This, Master Chang's face was flushed red. He stuttered and could not answer. What do you have to say? Jiang Xiu asked Wang Zhenbang, who threw money at him. No one present could answer, and no one had the face to answer. The result was self-evident. Mr. Jiang is invincible. Wu Rong bowed deeply to Jiang Xiu. His face was full of pride and glory. He came with Mr. Jiang, and with Mr. Jiang's performance he was also proud. Just now he was really angry. The dignified deputy director and Mr. Jiang were actually driven away by someone. At this time, when he saw that they were speechless, it really swept away the haze and vented his anger. He was very unhappy. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Master Chang kept shaking his head. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, and 3 generations of my ancestors all died in the hands of this snake demon. How do you explain this? Jiang Xiu said. What obligation do I have to explain to you? After that he ignored him. Master Chang was left with a stunned and dazed expression. He realized that the other party did not have to explain to him at all, because he had already proved that he was right, and he was very wrong. Sir. Boss Wang was very embarrassed. He wanted to stop Jiang Xiu, but Jiang Xiu ignored him. This made him embarrassed and angry. How dare a Jianghu sorcerer put on airs in front of him? 10 million. He stretched out a finger and transmitted his voice. This was a shocking number. I'll give you 10 million. Help me save Xiao Xiao. He didn't believe that there was anyone in this world who didn't love money. Jiang Xiu said. Like I said before, I don't lack money. 50 million. Boss Wang raised his hand and extended 5 fingers. His eyes widened. 50 million was not a small amount. With this amount of money, he could spend it anywhere in the world and live a carefree life for the rest of his life. He would no longer have to risk his life to deal with demons and ghosts. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. Are you rich? Boss Wang said. I am the boss of Bai Yi Entertainment, Xiao Xuetong's boss. I don't dare to say that I am very rich, but my assets are definitely not something you can imagine. You saved her today, so you can name the price. In addition, I Wang Zhenbang owe you a favor. In the future, if you need help, you can come to Qinghai province to find me. I will definitely help. Wang Zhenbang's social skills were very strong. In this day and age, he opened an entertainment company and even had the boss of a famous celebrity. Wherever he went, he was highly sought after. Everyone flattered him. After a long time, of course, he thought of himself as someone important. Therefore, his tone was very arrogant. Many people only have one chance to become rich in their lifetime. If you miss it, you will miss it forever. Think about it carefully. He looked down on these charlatans from the bottom of his heart. If it wasn't for the fact that he was in a hurry, he definitely wouldn't bother to deal with these people. What's the situation? A voice came from outside the warning line. Gu Shu, the target has been confirmed to be in the forest. Oh. The person who came was Gu Deji. He went to the hospital to be treated as a wound doctor. It was basically an external injury, so it wasn't a big deal. He went downstairs to find Jiang Xiu. After seeing Jiang Xiu's methods, although he couldn't be sure that Jiang Xiu was a demigod, he was definitely a rare talent. Naturally, he wanted to recruit him and have a good relationship with him. As soon as he arrived, he found that the warning line was pulled up. It looked like they were ready for battle. Gushu. Wang Zhenbao and Big Sister Li cried out in surprise. They were pleasantly surprised and excited. Jiangnan's Feng Jiangnan actually regarded Wang Zhenbang in a new light and personally came over. Gushu, why are you here? I didn't have to trouble you with such a small matter. Gu Deji said, Mr. Jiang is here. How dare I not come? After that, he politely called out to Jiang Xiu, Mr. Jiang. Well, now Wang Zhenbang was confused. The Jiangnan frontier, the most powerful person in Jiangnan province. Why would he be so respectful to a Jianghu warlock? While Gu Shu went to talk to Jiang Xiu, Wang Zhenbang asked the secretary behind Gu Deji, Great Secretary Yi, who is this Mr. Jiang? Why is Gu Shu so polite to him? The secretary said, Boss Wang came to Jiangqing to earn money. Haven't you heard of Mr. Jiang's name? Wang Zhenbang shook his head. The secretary said, In Jiangqing, Mr. Jiang has the final say. Even in Jiangnan province, half of it is under his feet. This warlock was actually such a big shot. Wang Zhenbang sucked in a breath of cold air, and was stunned. Do you think my boss should be polite to him? The secretary saw Wang Zhenbang's strange expression, and felt strange. He couldn't help but say, Boss Wang, did you offend Mr. Jiang? In Jiangqing, you can offend anyone but Mr. Jiang. Because no one who offends him can live. Wang Zhenbang's face turned pale. What's the situation? Gu Deji asked. Jiang Xiu's gaze was fixed on the forest. He said casually, She's in there, and so is the one who caught her. I need to go in. Dismiss everyone around. Especially that fly. Gu Deji said to Wu Rong. What are you waiting for? Didn't you hear Mr. Jiang? Clear everyone out of the cordon. Everyone, please. Don't wait for the police to force you out. Wang Zhenbang, Lai Jie, and Master Chang were embarrassed. They wanted to chase people out, but now they were the ones being chased out. Jiang Xiu didn't care about such a small matter. If he did, these people would be dead. He dismissed them because he was worried that they would be in trouble if something happened. As he spoke, Jiang Xiu had already walked into the forest. A figure stood in the forest. He had messy white hair, wore a long robe, and held a walking stick in his hand. It was impossible to tell his age. Who are you? How dare you meddle in my business? Jiang Xiu said. You hid well, and your appearance is not bad. Unfortunately, a spiritual body is still a spiritual body. That person's expression changed. Who are you? I'm here to capture you. You have a death wish. He pointed his walking stick at Jiang Xiu, and the Yin snake under his feet shot toward Jiang Xiu like an arrow. His eyes emitted black fog, and he muttered something. Emph. Jiang Xiu waved his hand, and an invisible force blew towards the shadow snake. Suddenly a fierce wind blew, causing the entire forest to sway. The shadow snake was only a spiritual body, so it was unable to withstand this degree of wind. It immediately turned into black gas, and drifted away with the wind without a trace. The trees that had been blown over by the wind straightened up. That person's expression changed again. and his eyes flickered. He asked, "Are you a divine body? Are you a god?" Jiang Xiu said, "You have a good eye. What a surprise to meet a divine body here." Jiang Xiu said, "I'm also surprised to meet a god here, and an evil one at that." "Same here," the demonic god said. "How long have you lived?" Jiang Xiu said, "Less than 20 years. The demonic god said, "How is that possible? You can't have such power with less than 20 years of cultivation. I've lived for 1,000 years, and I've raised the Een snake for 100 years. It doesn't make sense. Wait, what's your priesthood?" Jiang Xiu said, "I don't have a priesthood." Jiang Xiu was curious about this. He had 2 priesthood lights, but he didn't know what they were used for. He asked, "What's the use of a priesthood?" The demonic god laughed. He was sure that Jiang Xiu was really a hothead, and he wasn't pretending. "Why don't you ask the mortals what they're used for? Of course it's for power and longevity." The demonic god said, "Receive the good fortune of heaven and earth, and perform meritorious deeds, and the light of a priesthood descends from the heavens. Prove your position as a god, surpass the mortals, and enter the extraordinary. You can escape the boundaries of life and death, and travel the universe." Jiang Xiu asked him, "What's your priesthood?" The demonic god said, "9th level Northern Grand Divine Taoism." As he spoke, his body emitted a faint glow. It should be the light of a priesthood. It was completely different from the 2 priesthood lights that Jiang Xiu had encountered before. The light of his priesthood was as evil as his person. Jiang Xiu said, "Interesting." Chapter 114. Just as Jiang Xiu had predicted, the spirit qi on earth had withered. It was almost impossible to use spirit qi to cultivate one's physical body to the divine Tao. Therefore, one had to rely on merit to grow. In the legends, the North deity cultivated the ghost god Tao, which was why the evil god cultivated the evil god Tao. In other words, not only did the evil god want to kill Xiaoshuetong, but he also wanted to take her soul. One soul was one evil. The more souls he took, the stronger his power would be, and the stronger his North deity godhood light would be. In addition, Xiaoshuetong had many fans, so she could gain a lot of power from the divine Tao. "I'm Mingluan. The heavenly Tao is blocked, and it's difficult for my divine body to advance. I had no choice but to abandon my physical body and cultivate the Tao of Een God." Mingluan sighed. "It's laughable that I was ignorant. I even doubted whether there were young gods in this world. For 1,000 years, I've never heard of it. Today, I finally have the chance to see it. Alas!" His tone was full of regret. The Een god was an evil god that was worshipped without being conferred the title. The ghost god was not orthodox. It was like a dream or a shadow. It was like a ghost. Simply put, it was a spiritual body. To put it plainly, it was a breath. This was undoubtedly a low-grade one. Although Jiang Xiu had not truly become a god, he was walking the young god Tao. Once he became a god, he would break away from his physical body and create a new young god body. In the immortal martial continent, there was a debate about whether the Een god or the young god was stronger. This debate came to an end when an incident happened. It was said that in the early days of the immortal martial continent, there was a pair of brothers. One cultivated the Een god, and the other cultivated the young god. One day, both of them cultivated to become gods. It was the day when the jasper flowers bloomed in the Huangqian Empire. Commoners were not allowed to see them. The 2 brothers thought that they had cultivated to become gods, so they said, "Let's go to the palace to see the jasper flowers." Thus, the 2 of them sat cross-legged and left. They looked at the jasper flowers and drank tea. After their primordial spirits returned, they looked at each other and smiled. They said in unison, "Bring the flowers." When the Een god touched his sleeve, there were no flowers. When the young god touched his sleeve, there were flowers. After that, the immortal martial continent continued to develop, and the wheels of history proved that the Een deity Tao was a broken path. There were many flaws in it, and there was also a limit to how far it could go. Currently, the immortal martial continent's deity cultivators were basically all young deities. They were all forced to cultivate the Yin deity Tao. In the immortal martial continent's heavenly court of fortune, Yin gods were only allowed to take up a lowly position. It could be said that once a person cultivated a Yin spirit, he or she would be destroyed. There was no future to speak of. Back then, Ming Luan had painstakingly cultivated in a strange book. The book clearly stated that there were Yin spirit and Yang spirit, so he naturally chose Yang spirit. However, it was very tiring. After several hardships, it was difficult for him to move forward. When he saw that his companions around him had also failed to achieve the way of Yang spirit, he doubted whether there was really a Yang spirit in the book. In the end, he chose Yin spirit. At this moment, seeing that Jiang Xiu could easily destroy the Yin snake that he had raised for 100 years, he felt greatly disappointed. However, he laughed again and said, "In the end, there is an end to the road of the Yang spirit. As you walk, the road will be gone. Why do you have to choose a dead end? Why don't you cultivate Yin spirit with me?" Jiang Xiu sneered and said, "Mingluan, Yang spirit is a dead end for you, but for me it is a broad road. Achieving Yang spirit is only a matter of time for me. In less than a year or two, I can achieve Yang spirit. As for Yin spirit, to put it bluntly, it is a crippled body of a god. Although it is called a god, it is actually no different from a ghost." On earth, the spiritual qi had withered, so the road of spiritual cultivation would indeed be hindered by the physical body. In the early stages, one could rely on other methods, such as martial arts, or heavenly treasures to make some progress, but these were not enough to support one to the end. When one reached a certain level, it would inevitably be difficult to make any progress. No matter how much one cultivated martial arts or absorbed heavenly treasures, it would be useless. No, you are not even as good as a ghost. You can only be called a monster. In Jiang Xiu's eyes, the person in front of him was not in the shape of a human. He had a green face, fangs, a single eye, and a body of a dragon. His whole body exuded a ferocious and evil aura. This should be his original appearance. Like the ancestor of the Wang family, he had also mutated. On the road of evolving into a god, he had become what he was now. The more Jiang Xiu said, the uglier Ming Luan's face became. "No one dares to slander me. Considering that you are young and ignorant, if you kneel down and sacrifice your soul to me, I can spare your life." In his eyes, Jiang Xiu was just a demigod who was not up to standard. In front of a demigod was a joke. Jiang Xiu sneered and shook his head. "Unfortunately, I have taken a fancy to your 1,000-year cultivation. Even if you kneel down and surrender, I will absorb your power. Arrogant boy." Zhuo Wentian of the Heavenly Tao Palace, Li Puti of Bodhi Biogenetics, and Xian Julin of the Medicine King Valley dare not talk to me like this. You are courting death. Green light flashed in Ming Luan's eyes. His white hair fluttered in the wind. His voice was like the howling of a ghost. It sounded like the roar of a wild beast. The faces of the onlookers outside the forest turned pale again. Along with his roar, his aura burst out in an instant. A chilly wind swept through the entire forest. Even the moonlight was blocked. The forest seemed to have become a ghost town. Howling sounds filled the surroundings. "I will show you what the power of a god is." North the arch-divine light. In an instant, countless black fog rushed over like a tide. It had a strange power. It was as if even one's consciousness was being eroded. One's brain and body felt as if one's entire being was being eroded. This is... Jiang Xiu was greatly shocked. The light of godhood was actually somewhat similar to their so-called domain of God. Die. Boom. A huge black claw suddenly appeared in front of Jiang Xiu's chest, and was about to pierce into Jiang Xiu's chest. The claw was covered with black scales. The 5 fingers were very long. They were twice as long as a normal person's. Together with the 10-centimeter-long nails, it was very frightening. The sharp claws were so fast and powerful that they could probably even pierce through the steel plates of an armored vehicle. Jiang Xiu snorted disdainfully. The one in front of him was not a real god. It just thought that it was a god. It just had the divine light. 5,000 evils as a prison, 6,000 evils as a prison, and 10,000 evils as a prison. Jiang Xiu was still far from it. In fact, The real power was the power of the divine Tao faith that Xiao Xuedong gave him. This superstar had too many die-hard fans. In addition, she had just held a concert today. It was the most intense time. Hey. Jiang Xiu pointed his finger at the claw. A golden light flashed between his fingers. Before the two forces collided, there was a strangling sound. The magnetic fields collided. Unless one had really reached the divine realm, the Yin god would never have the slightest advantage in front of the Yang god. Its weakness was comprehensive. Puff. At that moment, it was as if a tire had been punctured by Jiang Xiu's sword finger. Jiang Xiu's divine Dao Qi weapon was better. It left a hole in the palm of the claw and pierced through it. Ming Luan's expression changed greatly. He couldn't help but step back. He looked at his claw in disbelief. This claw had condensed his most powerful supernatural power, and was the most powerful part of his Yin god body. How is this possible? However, the underworld will quickly regain his composure. You do have some cultivation. No wonder you dared to find trouble with me. However, thick black smoke rose from his hand. When it dissipated, the hole in his palm had already healed. You are only a demigod. If you don't become a god, you will never know how terrible a god is. In this world, there is no power that can kill me. As long as I have the North Emperor's divine light, I can live forever. Outside the forest, outside the police line. What's going on inside? Mr. Jiang has been in there for a long time. Could something have happened to him? Wu Rong said worriedly. There was a little sound just now, but now there is no sound at all. Master Chong said. I understand. The Yin snake is raised and driven by someone. If I'm not wrong, that person is inside. Even 3 generations of my ancestors couldn't deal with him. Besides, he is a demon from 100 years ago. Mr. Jiang can't deal with him. I'm afraid he has turned into a skeleton by now. Look! Everyone looked in the direction of the sound. In the sky above the forest, there was another huge shadow of a snake. It seems that I was right. Mr. Jiang has been defeated. Master Chong shook his head secretly and said with a sigh, I advised him not to be arrogant, but he didn't listen. Now he has lost his life. Gu Shu frowned slightly. If Jiang Luoxia couldn't even deal with a demon, then the Gu family didn't need to rope him in. Suddenly, there was a boom. A figure flew out of the forest and knocked down dozens of trees. He fell to the ground and couldn't stop himself. He slid out dozens of meters. What's going on? Jiang Xiu walked out of the forest slowly and shook his head. Do you think you are strong? That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.